An excavation at some mysterious ruins broke an ancient seal, causing a catastrophe for all of humanity. With that, a strange red mist spread throughout all the cities. However, other creatures mutated into terrifying monsters with bizarre powers, known as aberrations. And amidst the chaos, a man with a monstrous arm observes the destruction. Wherever these creatures went, they left only cities in ruins. Fear spread like a plague, with the monsters hunting down the survivors. Trying to fight back, the humans used military force against the creatures. A massive explosion goes off in the middle of the city, but it didn't seem to do any good. Back in the present, the young man is surrounded by monsters and shouts for Xiao Shu. The beasts growled back, preparing to attack. His eyes glow red as he desperately screams, asking where she is. Then, filled with rage, he charges at the monsters, cutting them all down. His hand is completely transformed into a powerful, red claw. Alone again, he looks around amidst the city's destruction. With a somber look and glowing eyes, he whispers her name again. He continues to wander aimlessly through the rebel, still calling for Shu. In doing so, he steps on something on the ground and realizes it's a doll. The young man kneels upon recognizing the toy and calls her name again. With his transformed hand, he carefully tries to pick up the doll from the ground, but halfway there, his monstrous claw starts to return to normal. A bloody tear streams from his eye, and he whispers her name once more. Completely alone in the ruined city, he despairs, asking for her. The scene cuts to 3 days ago, with reports of the red mist emerging. Inside a car, we see the protagonist accompanied by a girl. A soldier knocks on the car window and tells them to get out of there right now. The army is everywhere, and the driver complains about the lying politicians. The young woman says she's scared, but the hero comforts her, saying it's okay. The young man looks outside, thinking about what a huge mess this whole situation is. The soldiers watch a helicopter flying straight into the red mist. Seconds later, the helicopter simply explodes in mid-air, shocking everyone. The driver and the young man are in shock from the sudden explosion in the sky. The hero then acts fast, pulling the girl down to protect her from the debris. A car is struck head-on, flipping violently in the middle of the chaos. With a dirty face, the protagonist shouts for his parents, asking if they are okay. Inside the car, the father says his leg is trapped while the mother coughs in confusion. Desperate, the father yells for them to get out of the car as fast as possible. The man tries to get out, but his leg is completely stuck in the wreckage. With that, the boy pulls his sister out of the car to safety. He tries to open the door, but his parents tell him to take his sister and leave. His mother insists, and holding his hand, tells him to go right now. Smiling sadly, they ask their son to take good care of Xiao Shu. Suddenly, a beam of red energy strikes the car, causing a massive explosion. From the flames, a wolf-like creature emerges with glowing red eyes. The young man grabs his sister's hand and runs, while she screams for their parents. And in the sky, a giant dragon-like monster flies over the destroyed city. The two siblings look back in horror at the explosion that hit their parents. The girl sees a monster attacking someone else and screams desperately for help. He remembers his parents and, with a determined look, wonders what is happening. The draconic creature causes a panic, and everyone starts running for their lives. One of the monstrous wolves roars loudly, showing its sharp fangs. The hero runs with his sister, not understanding anything that's happening in the world. He realizes that animals and people are going crazy and attacking everything. More of those creatures appear everywhere, climbing the city buildings. They hide, and the young man covers his sister's mouth so they don't make a sound. The protagonist tenses up, watching the danger up close with a focused gaze. To their relief, the creature seems not to have noticed them and starts to move away. After the monster is gone, the two breathe a sigh of relief for a moment. But suddenly, the girl screams in pain with strange red marks on her face. Her brother asks what's wrong, and she says she's not feeling well. He then sees his reflection in a broken piece of glass and notices he has the marks too. He wonders if all of this is happening because of the red mist. He quickly grabs a water bottle and wets a piece of cloth. The young man then places the cloth on his sister's face, telling her to protect herself. But at that moment, the marks on his own face worsen, and his eye glows. His sister asks what's wrong, but he says he's fine while trying to control himself. Suddenly, the monster they thought they had lost appears again. The creature watches them from the floor above, and the girl begs her brother not to scare her. He feels his body burning and a terrible pain as if something were piercing him. Hearing the noise, the beast finally spots them and prepares to attack. The hero pushes his sister away and yells for her to run as the monster charges forward. Desperate, the two run into an abandoned supermarket, but outside a giant bird-like creature appears in the sky. To make matters worse, the monstrous wolf has them cornered at the market's entrance. The young man hugs his sister and tells her not to be afraid because he is there. An even larger draconic monster appears, roaring and causing more destruction. The creatures begin to fight among themselves in a chaotic and violent battle. Holding his sister, he wonders if this will be the end for them. He pushes her into a room in the back and tells her to go inside and hide. The hero grabs a pipe and says that facing the monster is their only chance. With a battle cry, the young man attacks the creature with all his might, but the beast shatters his makeshift weapon with a single, effortless swipe of its paw. The monster roars in his face, and the young man thinks it's all over for him. With no chance to react, the creature viciously clamps down on the protagonist's arm. Even injured, he shoves a piece of the weapon into the monster's eye, which screams in pain. His sister appears with a weapon, saying she's going to help him fight. The creature throws him aside, and he desperately yells for his sister to run away. He screams for her not to look back as the beast chases right after her. Wounded on the ground, the hero starts coughing up blood, unable to do anything. His body glows red, and he wonders why this is happening now. The girl stumbles and falls to the ground, left at the mercy of the approaching monster. Desperate, the hero screams his sister's name while punching a wall with force. Suddenly, a beam of red energy pierces through the monster that was chasing her. The protagonist appears with glowing red eyes, standing on top of the defeated beast. Consumed by rage, he yells for the creature to perish and attacks it relentlessly. His sister watches in horror as her brother mercilessly attacks the monster's body. She then hugs him from behind and asks what's wrong, begging him to stop. He yells that everything is fine, but the girl pleads with him to stop it. With that, he remembers his mother's last words, telling him to run. He also recalls his parents asking him to take good care of Zhao Shu. A final memory of them together appears, asking the two siblings to survive. Back in the present, he hears her voice and slowly begins to calm down. The girl continues to look at him with a very worried expression on her face. He then smiles and apologizes for worrying her, and she asks if he's okay. But the reflection in the glass shows that another giant aberration has appeared behind them. The creature smashes through everything, and the young man acts fast, pushing his sister away. The giant monster roars furiously, ready to attack the two siblings. The young man prepares for the fight, calling the giant creature Mugly Bird. Shouting for the beast to stay away from his sister, he attacks with all his strength. The hero unleashes a powerful wave of red energy to push the creature back. He takes her to a safe place and says he'll take care of the monsters by himself. The young man explains that the large creature has its eyes on them, and he needs to lure it away. His sister hugs him tightly, afraid that he'll lose control again, but the protagonist comforts her, saying that this time he won't lose control. He asks her to wait there and promises he'll be back for her soon. With eyes full of tears, she asks him to promise he'll come back safe. The young man smiles confidently and assures her he will return to her safe and sound. After saying goodbye to her, a strange dark hole appears in the market floor. He walks away, thinking that hunting aberrations will make him stronger to protect her. The hero then faces a giant monster, saying he needs more power. The creature roars back, and the young man yells for it to just drop dead. But the giant monster ignores him, and three monstrous wolves surround him, snarling. With no time to waste, he attacks one of the beasts with his metal pipe. With a powerful blow, he crushes the creature's skull without any mercy, but another wolf manages to bite his arm, and the young man calls them animals. Then his hands transform into claws, and he destroys the two remaining beasts. With a sinister smile, he wonders if this is what power feels like. The scene cuts to the sky, where a military plane is fighting the draconic monster. The giant creature lands and faces the young man, who is surrounded by other monsters. Confused, he looks at his transformed arm, wondering what happened. Suddenly, a missile comes flying at high speed in his direction. His sister comes out of her hiding spot worried, but he yells for her not to come out, and in the next instant, the missile explodes, causing enormous destruction. Near a crashed plane, someone reports that there are still survivors there. A soldier sees his injury and says to leave him because he's already infected. With that, other soldiers ignore the young man, take only the girl with them. They put her in a helicopter and say that the monsters will be back soon. As the helicopter takes off, the hero's transformed hand reaches out for it. Amidst the flames, the girl stares at him and asks why he didn't save her. She screams in despair as she is consumed by the fire, and he tries to reach her. His burning body transforms, and he screams his sister's name in desperation. Suddenly, the protagonist wakes up startled, as it was all just a nightmare. He laments having the same dream and wonders, where she has been for half a year. Now on his feet, he is relieved that his secret hasn't been exposed to anyone. He remembers searching for her in every shelter, but couldn't find her. To find her, he joined the border patrol as a low-ranking soldier. Now he is at the border outpost of Chishi City. The young man runs to his captain, named Jia-jun, and apologizes for being late. A colleague complains about the rookie, and the captain kicks him hard for being late. The captain sends him to his post and threatens him if he screws up. At the top of the tower, he observes the ruined city, engulfed by the red mist. He wonders if that giant monster is still around. Meanwhile, the captain complains that the special response unit is already there. The other soldiers laugh, doubting that such a famous unit could fail. One of them then recalls that they crush aberrations wherever they go. Up high, the young man thinks about how much he hates the smell of the red mist. Suddenly, he notices that the red mist is parting in the middle. The young man then spots something very large coming towards them. Down below, one of the soldiers warns the captain that something is wrong. The men look at the mist, which is advancing like a giant wave upon them. Amidst the chaos, two soldiers from the special unit run in desperation. The red wave is about to catch them, and the captain yells to fall back. But the mist hits one of the soldiers, and the captain orders everyone to retreat. Before he can react, the captain is pierced from behind by a sharp tail. A giant creature glares at him, and he realizes his end has come. From above, the hero watches the panic and the screams of the fleeing soldiers. Without a second thought, the young man jumps from the tower into the middle of the chaos. A monster shoots a beam of energy, but the young man manages to defend himself. With his transformed arm, he defeats a creature and counts it as the first one. At that, an even larger monster roars and charges at the protagonist. The young man dodges and defeats another monster, counting it as the second on his list. He then uses his claw to absorb the energy of the defeated creature. With this, he feels he has become stronger and wants to absorb even more power. He then faces the other 6 monsters surrounding him, ready to attack. With a smile, he tells the creatures not to disappoint him in the fight. But a beam of purple energy descends from the sky and destroys all the beasts. Surprised by the attack, he turns around and sees a person in the midst of the smoke. It's Captain Song Ruai of the Special Unit's Burning Blood Detachment. The protagonist panics when he realizes who the woman in front of him is. He looks at his transformed hands and thinks about how to turn them back to normal. The captain orders her men to clean everything up and not leave anyone behind. With that, the special unit soldiers surround him, pointing their weapons. He raises his normal hands and asks them not to shoot, introducing himself as a soldier. But suddenly, a giant aberration appears behind him, ready to attack. In the next instant, the creature is already down on the ground, and the target has been eliminated. The captain then slowly approaches the young man to question him about what happened. She asks where his weapon is, and the young man realizes he's in deep trouble. Without further questions, the woman orders all units to fall back to the defense line. At a temporary base, a soldier prohibits anyone from entering without permission. Song Rui analyzes a report with 37 casualties at the outpost. The protagonist gulps and tenses up, waiting for what's to come. Tied to a chair, he asks why he's being detained if he was also a victim. She confronts him, saying he abandoned his post for 2 hours without permission. Trying to get out of it, he claims he was just taking a nap in the ruins, but a soldier accuses him of always being late and being covered for by the captain. With a furious look, the hero threatens his colleague not to frame him. Song Rui observes the scene and concludes that the patrol team has a lot of problems. Meanwhile, in a hospital, Captain Jiajun sneezes, all bandaged up in bed. The woman shows his file and finds it strange that a rookie survived the attack. He lies, saying he ran a lot out of fear, and that's how he managed to escape. She then asks why he enlisted if he's so afraid of passing on. In his thoughts, he reaffirms his goal of finding his sister, Xiaoshu. For half a year, he avoided everyone and searched for her in every ruin and settlement. Back in the present, she accuses him of abandoning his post and withholding information. The captain approaches and asks if he knows the consequences of his actions. She then whispers in his ear and asks what happened to his hands. The woman then asks why he lied and what his real objective is there. But suddenly, a strong tremor begins to shake the entire structure of the place. She thinks it's an earthquake, but the young man recognizes that familiar feeling. The young man stands up and shouts for everyone to run, because a horde of monsters is coming. With a smile, she asks if he's trying to escape right in front of her. With an electric strike, the captain throws him to the ground with force and immobilizes him. The other soldiers are shocked by her strength and ask her to take it easy. With the impact, the floor collapses, and everyone starts falling into a dark hole. Everyone falls into an underground cavern and wonders where they are now. Still handcuffed, the young man realizes they've fallen into an underground place. The woman orders one of her men to light up the area because it's too dark. A soldier accuses him of being a disaster, and the hero says they can argue later. With that, the soldier turns on a bright light to illuminate the dark cavern. The light reveals a giant labyrinth made by aberrations, and the man gets scared. The captain sees her weapon on the ground and tells everyone to stay calm and check their gear. She picks up her rifle and tells them to maintain formation and cover each other. Suddenly, a strange sound echoes through the darkness of the mysterious cavern. The protagonist is on alert and looks intently into the darkness ahead of him. He says he hears wind, and the soldier gets excited, thinking there's an exit nearby. The man confirms the breeze and praises the young man for his escape skills. But an insect monster appears, and the hero yells for everyone to get down quickly. A green laser then hits the creature head-on, saving the soldier's life. The monster's body melts into a green, corrosive liquid that burns the ground. The captain reprimands him and warns him not to act without her orders again. She glares at him and says he'll have to explain everything when they get out of there. The young man wonders what she's planning, since she knows his secret. A strange noise catches everyone's attention, and they realize something is approaching. From the shadows, more of those insect-like creatures appear to attack them. An entire horde of monsters surrounds them, and they realize they are in trouble. The creatures advance as a swarm, preparing to attack the group. One of the soldiers starts shooting, but the bullets don't seem to have much effect. The group runs desperately, shooting in all directions, trying to escape the horde. The woman yells for him not to stop running, while eyeing him with suspicion. To everyone's surprise, the swarm of monsters suddenly stops advancing. Everyone looks ahead and sees an illuminated passage at the end of the cavern. In the passage, they see the bodies of soldiers and a monster absorbing the red mist. The creature begins to convert the mist into a very powerful energy sphere. With that, the protagonist yells for everyone to be careful, because that is dangerous. The captain then jumps and fires an electric shot with full force at the beast. But the monster retaliates with an even more powerful beam of red energy. The two attacks collide in mid-air, creating an incredible power struggle. Her shot breaks through the beam and hits the creature right in the face. However, even after being hit, the aberration's beam continues toward her. In a swift move, the young man pushes the woman aside and takes the hit for her. He absorbs the energy and, with his hands transformed, faces Captain Song Rai. He then turns to the monster and says he'll explain everything when they get out. The woman wonders how he's going to win if even her attacks didn't work. With a confident smile, the young man prepares for the battle ahead. Full of determination, he runs toward the giant creature without fear. His eye glows, and he realizes the monster is a dominator class. The hero lands a powerful punch and wonders how strong he'll become if he absorbs it. But the impact throws him back, and he notices the creature's resilience. He is impressed by the monster's toughness, as it didn't even get a scratch. With its armored body, the beast looks like a giant and powerful war tank. The aberration attacks with its tail, but the young man manages to dodge the blow. He realizes the monster is very slow because it focuses everything on its defense. With a dark look, he says the creature is nothing more than a moving target. The other soldiers shoot, but the bullets ricochet off the beast's armor. Now, the young man who always ran from danger is charging at the monster. His colleague is in shock and wonders who he really is. The captain makes up a story, claiming he's a secret government experiment designed for combat. The soldier is doubtful, but she confirms the story to protect his secret. Vice Officer Lin Yongji wonders if this is true or if she's hiding something. The man recalls the missed incident, and she says she will investigate the young man. She glares at him and warns that this is classified information and cannot be leaked. The creature concentrates a large amount of red energy in its mouth. The beast then fires a giant energy sphere in the hero's direction. The young man looks back and realizes the attack isn't meant for him. With that, he desperately shouts for his comrades to get out of the way. The energy ball explodes with a devastating impact, destroying everything. Amidst the smoke, the captain stands up with purple lightning coming from her body. Lying on the ground, the patrol soldier wonders if he's still alive. The special unit officer finds him and helps his comrade get up. With an injured leg, he says it was a fair trade for staying alive. He explains that he didn't become a soldier just to take out the creatures. His mission is to be humanity's shield, and he will never abandon anyone. Meanwhile, the protagonist is thrown far away by the force of the explosion. Lying on the ground, he realizes his energy is gone, and his arm returns to normal. The Dominator-class creature glares at him, and he realizes how problematic this is. The monster roars furiously, preparing to attack the fallen hero, but suddenly, a purple bolt strikes the creature, catching its attention. From the ground, the young man looks to the side and whispers the captain's name. The woman says he can't pass on, because he still has a lot to explain. After being hit, the creature starts to let out a strange and unsettling laugh. The captain is shocked to realize the monster is laughing at her attack. From the caverns, a red mist begins to flow towards the creature. The mist is then absorbed into the monster's wounds and begins to heal it. She realizes the creature is going to heal itself and cause the mist eruption. The woman yells to fall back, but the hero says the monster has to be taken down. He explains that the monster can't move, and this is their chance. The captain warns him that if they fail, he could end up perishing there. The young man says he has faced his end many times, and one more doesn't matter. With that, she agrees to the plan and says they only have one shot. She will use all her power to break open its armor, and he will destroy its brain. With her sights locked on the monster's head, she prepares for the attack. The captain gives the signal and fires with full force as the hero charges forward. The electric shot blows apart the head armor, and the young man celebrates their success. With a clear path, he leaps to deliver the final blow to the furious creature. But green tentacles shoot out from the wound and grab the young man in mid-air. The tendrils close up, protecting the beast's brain from any attack. Song Roy watches the scene in shock, wondering if their plan worked. A wave of green energy then violently throws the protagonist far away. Suddenly, a giant spike pierces the monster, and the captain screams his name. The woman runs to the young man's body on the ground to see if he's okay. Next to him, she finds a strange object that looks like a photograph. She picks up the photo, while the young man holds a crystal that came from the monster. The crystal then begins to glow and fuses with the fallen hero's hand. In his mind, he sees himself in a strange place and can't control his body. He understands he has been completely transformed and wonders if this is his end. A part of the DNA chain then begins to glow intensely in front of him. The crystal fuses to his chest, and to his surprise, he can move. Back to normal, he feels something different inside his chest. He recognizes the monster's crystal and wonders how it got there. Suddenly, the object in his chest begins to absorb the red mist. He understands that the crystal prevents him from losing control by absorbing the mist. Now he can absorb the beasts and evolve without fear of going crazy. But he realizes the crystal has a limit and is about to overload. With the crystal overloaded, the young man has an idea to use the energy. He remembers the beast used the mist and plans to absorb all the energy. The scene cuts to the young man, lying unconscious in a hospital bed. His eyes glow red, and the mist around him grows more intense. He then shouts for the mist to gather and condenses it into a red sphere. The captain enters the room and sees him controlling the mist with his hand. He throws the energy sphere and yells for the woman to get out of the way. The energy hits a building outside, causing a massive explosion. The scene flashes back to 5 minutes earlier in a large hospital building. In the hallway, the captain talks to a soldier about the injured vice officer. In the room, the injured man questions the woman about the young man's identity. She says his case is top secret and tells him to focus on his recovery. The woman then informs him that she has requested his transfer to the logistics sector. With that, she warns that she will report everything to her father, the chief of staff. Injured, the woman freezes his communication privileges and restricts him. Outside, she asks a soldier where the protagonist is hospitalized. With that, the two arrive at the door of room 314, where he is. The captain orders the man to stand guard and not let anyone enter the room. As soon as she opens the door, she sees the hero about to launch the energy sphere. The woman is shocked by the scene and desperately screams the young man's name. He then launches the energy and yells for the captain to get out of the way now. In a swift move, the woman dives to the floor to dodge the attack, but the energy sphere hits the soldier, who was outside head-on. The attack goes through the building and hits another building in a massive explosion. From his room, the vice officer sees the destruction and is shocked by the young man's power. Lying on the ground, the soldier complains about his bad luck and screams for help. Terrified, she recognizes the attack and wonders how he's using the monster's ability. With a serious look, she says the protagonist owes her a lot of explanations. The scene cuts to the hospital roof, where the two are talking. The captain asks if he can absorb the beast's cores and their abilities. The hero says he can absorb the mist, and that the crystal in his chest repairs itself. With a smile, the woman is impressed by his various abilities, but the young man reveals that by obtaining the monster's strength, he could become one. With that, he asks if, in her opinion, he is still a human being. The captain says he is a unique existence, and all depends on how he uses his power. She steps away, saying his power is both a disaster and a weapon. The woman then offers him 2 paths. The first is to join her squad. The second path is to be classified as a threat and be eliminated like the beasts. The young man repeats the word, eliminated, as he eyes the woman with suspicion. He doubts the city's troops can defeat him, but admits he's no match for her. The captain calls him arrogant and offers benefits if he joins her. He questions her reason for recruiting a dangerous element like him. The woman then admits she needs him for a certain objective, and they are not enemies. With a mysterious look, the captain answers his question with a maybe. She hands him something and says he can think of it as a transaction. To his shock, it's a photo of him with his sister, and he asks how she got it. The woman offers to use her intelligence network to help him find her. The hero then thinks that with a higher rank, it would be easier to investigate. He accepts the deal but says, since she needs him so much, he has one condition. With a smile, the young man asks for a raise, explaining he spent all his money looking for his sister. The captain approves him as a soldier with the highest salary and tells him to get going. The young man agrees and says he will handle the transfer to the new team. But suddenly, he stops as if he remembered something. The woman informs him that she paid for the hospital damages and will deduct it from his salary. In her thoughts, she remembers a man and promises to find a way. He grumbles about having to pay while she thinks about her instincts. The woman believes he is the key to turning an aberration back into a human. The scene cuts to the city patrol team's garrison building. A soldier sees him and is surprised that he is also going to the special unit. The colleague says they can help each other now, since the captains admire him. The protagonist tries to remember the man's name, but has never paid attention to him. The soldier waves and lets him know that Captain Gia is fine and is right over there. The hero looks to the side and sees a group of soldiers gathered in a circle. A red-haired man is taunting Captain Gia, who is on crutches. The defense captain, Zhang Shai, kicks him and humiliates him in front of everyone. The hero's colleague gets angry and charges at the men to defend Gia. But the soldiers knock him down and pin him, while he shouts for the captain. Zhang Shi grabs Jia by the collar and threatens him, telling him to lick his shoe. With a malicious smile, Zhang Shi threatens to break the other soldier's arm. Captain Jia becomes enraged by the taunt and clenches his teeth in anger. To protect his man, the injured captain begins to kneel on the ground, but the protagonist stops him and says he doesn't have to do that. The young man says the captain helped him a lot, and now it's his turn to repay the favor. He then faces the men and says that no one is going to touch Captain Jia. Zhang Shi's goons are furious with the rookie's interference. With that, they all charge at the hero with pipes to attack him. With a focused look, the young man prepares to face the group alone. In an instant, he takes down the first man with a precise kick and counts it. The second is hit with a direct punch to the face before he could react. Dodging with agility, he lands a blow on the third goon in the group. The fourth and final man is hit by a powerful elbow strike to the stomach. With the force of the impact, the man is thrown to the ground, cracking the concrete. In a matter of seconds, all of Zhang Shi's men are defeated. The enemy captain is shocked at how quickly the young man defeated everyone. Angrily, the man points a weapon and threatens the protagonist for challenging him. The hero smiles confidently, and the bullets simply deflect off his body. In the blink of an eye, he appears in front of the man and grabs his weapon. With his new strength, the young man crushes the pistol with just one hand. He says the bullet's speed is nowhere near that of his captain. Desperate, the man pulls out a knife and tries to stab the protagonist with it. But the young man catches the blade with his hand effortlessly and glares at him. He grabs him by the neck and asks about the humiliation of his captain. Terrified and out of breath, the man struggles to break free, but to no avail. With the enemy in his hands, the hero says it's his turn now. The young man then starts slamming the man's head on the ground mercilessly. Zhang Shi lies unconscious on the ground in a small concrete crater. The other soldiers are shocked that he deflected bullets and crushed the weapon. The protagonist looks at his hand, surprised by his enhanced physical strength. The terrified soldiers call the hero a monster and run away in fear. His colleague then approaches and says he looked like a god of war while fighting. Captain Jia thanks him, but the young man says this isn't what he should be doing. Worried, the captain fears the city's defense team will come after him, but the young man calms him down, saying they are now part of the Special Response Unit. The scene cuts to the temporary base of the city's Special Response Unit. Inside, the captain informs him that she has already sent his application to headquarters. She then shows the approved application form for the final assessment. He asks if he's an official member yet, but she says the real test is coming now. The woman informs him that he needs to go to the headquarters in Hoqing for the test. Confident, the hero says that with his strength, passing won't be a problem for him. The scene cuts to a military convoy heading towards Hoqing City. The armored vehicles speed down the city's busy highway. Inside the car, Song-ri explains that Hoqing is the capital and the unit's headquarters. The young man asks how the ranks are determined and teases his friend's weakness. The soldier gets annoyed by the taunt and says at least he can take a beating. The captain explains that his friend is going into logistics and doesn't need a combat test. The colleague brags that the logistics team fights alongside them too. He begins to explain that people with special abilities are called warriors, and the aberrations are classified into 5 classes, from weakest to strongest. The warriors are also classified into ranks that correspond to each aberration. The protagonist listens intently and asks about core affinity. His colleague explains that humans awaken powers from beast cores. Song-ri adds that affinity affects the number of abilities awakened, and those who can't connect with a core can only reach rank E. Suddenly, the convoy is forced to stop due to an unexpected roadblock. A man in uniform approaches and says they need to take a detour from there. But the hero notices a car with a strange symbol passing through the blockade. The captain finds it odd and wonders what the Green Vine group is doing there. 1 hour later, at the entry assessment site, several recruits are gathered. The examiner, Lin Yongson, says that everyone there must follow the rules. He warns that he will not tolerate favoritism and only the strongest will remain. With a shout, the man announces the start of the recruits' first physical assessment. In the first test, the protagonist stands out, running 100 meters in 10 seconds. In the second test, he lifts 500 kilograms with just one of his hands. In the striking power test, he lands a powerful punch on the measuring machine. The impact is so strong that the machine breaks and displays an error message. 10 minutes later, the hero turns in the results from all the events. The examiner confirms and announces his final score of 198. The other recruits are in shock at the score, which broke the previous record. From a distance, Instructor Lin hears the record-breaking score and is impressed. Jung Jin, the younger brother of the defense captain, doesn't believe the result. The examiner scolds him for accusing him of letting the young man get in through the back door. With a cynical smile, Jung's brother says he was just curious about it all. He then approaches the hero and asks if he's from the Chishi patrol. With a malicious smile, he threatens the young man, telling him to just wait. The man promises to avenge his brother's humiliation by making the young man pay. The protagonist finds the man's attitude strange and wonders about his hometown. The examiner asks if he knows Jung Jin, and the young man immediately denies it. With a determined look, he realizes the entire defense team is corrupt. Next, the instructor announces the results, with the top 3 finishers. First place went to Yan Hao with 198 points in total. A young researcher named Jin Ying becomes interested in the strong rookie. In a private dorm room, Jung Jin is angry about not getting first place. He complains about 2 monsters showing up, but in reality, he only got in through nepotism. A holographic image of 2 men appears and advises him not to mess things up. Determined, the young man says he will get into the elite unit for his brother. Back at the assessment, the recruits are at the Beast Core testing station. The examiner explains that the test is simple. Just put on the wrist guard, and then place the Beast Core into the device to begin the assessment. He warns that an affinity below 40% results in immediate elimination. The man explains that the stronger the aberration, the better the quality of the core. Because of this, everyone has different affinities and awakens elemental or support powers. The instructor says the wrist guard is simple and will only test their affinity. He then finally announces the start of the Beast Core affinity test. The first recruit takes the test, and his affinity is 39%. On the floor, the man laments his failure and wonders why the test was so hard. The next candidate celebrates passing with 56%. With that, the examiner calls Jung Jin to be the next to take the test. With his eyes glowing red, the man approaches with a menacing look. He then grabs the Beast Core and tosses it into the air to prepare. With force, the young man snaps the Beast Core into the device on his wrist. Furiously, he yells for the machine to obey him, and the device glows. On the panel, his affinity with the core appears as 60%. The others are shocked and say that last year's strongest rookie only had 56. With a malicious smile, the man boasts about being the strongest one there. He returns to his spot, and the protagonist watches him in silence from a distance. A girl then appears and asks how she's never heard of someone so strong. The young woman introduces herself as the know-it-all and says he managed to stay off the radar. She then accuses him of being connected to the mist's fluctuation in his hometown. The girl says it's fine if he doesn't admit it, but she's interested in him. The hero takes the opportunity and asks if Miss Know-it-all can give him some information. She replies that she can, with a smile and a wink at the protagonist, but the young woman says that before that, she has a condition for her help, and if his score is higher than hers, she'll tell him anything he wants. Called by the examiner, the girl runs to the test with a smile on her face. The other recruits comment that she's going to break Jung Jin's record. The hero wonders if she's strong, and Jung Jin calls her a pathetic clown. In front of the device, the young woman named Jin Ying prepares for the test. With a confident look, the girl places the Beast Core into the equipment. With a confident look, the young woman yells for everyone to watch her test. On the panel, her affinity is 78%, shocking everyone. With a victorious smile, she gives a thumbs up to the crowd. The girl brags about breaking the record, leaving Jung Jin irritated. Furious, Jung Jin vows to get revenge, and the examiner calls the last recruit. The young woman asks if he feels the pressure, and the young man thinks she's very strong. Determined, the hero says he will win the bet to find Xiao Shu. He picks up the black core and thinks its rank is at least C class. The young man places the core on his wrist and wonders what his affinity will be. He then prepares to see his full potential with the device. On the panel, rank C appears, and everyone is shocked by a leader's level, but the screens show an error, and everyone wonders what the affinity was. To everyone's surprise, his affinity with the core was 0%. With a huge smile on his face, Jung Jin starts laughing and calls the protagonist a total loser. The villain mocks that even the core rejected him, while the young man just watches everything in silence. The hero tenses up, looking at his own hand, and realizes something is very wrong. Suddenly, the bracelet begins to glow a dark red, and the stone starts to melt. With his eye glowing, the young man feels his body absorbing the energy against his will. At the machine, the blonde girl says this has never happened before, as the lowest score ever seen was 1%. Excited, the girl starts typing frantically, wanting to record the moment to show an old man. Meanwhile, the rival notices a very strange detail, and a malicious smile spreads across his face. He snitches to Instructor Lin that the young man stole the core, and that the item has disappeared from his hand. The examiner becomes suspicious, and orders the rookie to raise his hand to show the equipment and the stone. Then everyone can clearly see that the core is no longer fitted in the center of the bracelet. The leader demands an explanation, and the hero plays dumb, saying he also has no idea what just happened. In his thoughts, the young man knows he needs a quick excuse to avoid becoming a lab experiment. With that, he decides to take a risk and pretend this bizarre transformation is just a new ability. At that moment, red energy covers his arm and soon transforms into a giant claw. Seeing this frightening scene, Jung Jin backs away in fear, wondering what kind of thing that is. The examiner pulls out an electric weapon and orders all recruits to be on alert and fall back. A soldier thinks he's been infected, and the captain warns everyone to stay far away from the danger. The man believes the only viable option now is to eliminate the boy right then and there before the situation gets any worse. But suddenly, the blonde girl tries to get the protagonist's attention, asking if he can hear her voice. The girl is amazed by the power and thinks it can only be a rare bestification technique. Calmly, the hero turns his head, confused, and casually asks what's wrong with everyone there. Instructor Lin remains on alert and quickly questions if the young man is still in his right mind. The young man then disperses the energy from his arm and explains that the stone just entered his body on its own. The blonde girl grabs his arm, all excited, saying he hasn't gone crazy and that this is unprecedented. The examiner finally relaxes and says the warrior hit the jackpot with such a valuable ability. The protagonist is weirded out by the girl's closeness and questions how she knows so much about the subject. Giving a wink, she strikes a cute pose and repeats that she's just a mysterious and ordinary know-it-all. But the instructor spoils the mystery and reveals she's from technical intelligence and her father is a general. Finally, the man decides to end the games and holds out his hand, asking the recruit to return the stone. The hero scratches his head, a bit embarrassed, and explains that he's not refusing to return the stone, but the young man points to his own wrist and shows that the item is permanently stuck to his body. At this, his blue-haired rival is shocked to realize the stone has entered the boy's body. With a malicious smile, the villain decides to inform his bosses about this perfect test subject. The scene then cuts to the door of a large medical radiology room in the laboratory. Inside, the protagonist is lying down, going through a giant scanner machine. The doctors look at the screens in shock, because the stone has fused with the boy's bones. One of the specialists then turns and asks for the research director's opinion on the case. The head scientist smiles, stating that the rookie is hiding secrets and deserves to be studied extensively. Suddenly, a high-ranking commander with white hair enters the room, wanting to know the situation. The researcher gets very excited and asks if the troops still maintain that rule about limits. But the military man tells his colleague to stop the drama and just tell him what's happening. Proudly, the head of research recalls that he created the machine and guarantees the power is not zero. Anxiously, the blonde girl shakes her father's arm, begging him to reveal the mystery already. With his eyes glowing, the scientist reveals that the boy's potential broke the machine, and the elite commander himself is stunned to learn that the level exceeded 100%. Immediately, the leader turns and orders the instructor to accompany him at that very moment. Meanwhile, the hero, lying down, notices that the stone in his chest is turning a deep red. The young man remembers the past and understands that swallowing other stones strengthens his main one. The system notifies him of the upgrades, and he understands he can get stronger by hunting monsters. After that, we see the exterior of the immense, armored building of the main military defense base. Inside, his former light-haired captain tries to get the hero into her own squad, but the superior military officer reprimands her and questions her interest in that recruit. Desperate, the woman reveals that he is her father and says she can't break her promise to the boy. Sternly, her father coldly replies that the rookie has already been assigned to another official team there. The old man forbids his daughter from fighting with her colleagues over a soldier and tells her to get back to work. Quite upset, she agrees but vows in her thoughts that she will find another way. Right after, we see the barracks dormitories as someone shouts for our protagonist. His blonde friend comes running, very excited, with a partner mission assignment for the two of them. Confused, the warrior blinks, not understanding anything, and the system confirms he's in the elite squad. In the briefing room, the instructor explains that today's mission is just to scout the location and assess the danger. With a confident smile, the blonde girl assures them that data collection is her specialty, and she's ready to help. Afterwards, the soldiers set out in a convoy of armored cars, following a dirt road. Inside the vehicle, the driver warns that the low-level nest has very confusing tunnels inside. The girl warns about the venomous iron bees, and the protagonist thinks sending several cars is an exaggeration. Surprised by his comment, the driver informs him that these creatures are not simple honey bees. Looking out the window, the hero notices dozens of small black dots flying across the sky and is confused. In reality, the dots are giant insects, and the girl panics, realizing they are the scout class. Desperate, the soldier tells everyone to hold on tight as he yanks the steering wheel with all his might. At that moment, the armored car brakes sharply to dodge several spikes falling from the sky. Terrified, the blonde girl warns that the vehicle's armor won't withstand the strong attack from those beasts. Determined, the young man says he will deal with the swarm outside, wanting to test his new combat power. Using his strong red energy, he simply rips the vehicle's door off with his bare hands. Holding the door like a shield, he tells his allies to hide and jumps out of the car. With a powerful leap, the warrior smashes the insects in mid-air using the door, which is covered in his red aura. Shocked, the driver wonders what kind of crazy power that is to use a door as a weapon. The girl remembers the past, realizing his aura can also cover and transform objects. Very excited, the scientist jots down data, noting that he can turn anything into a weapon. Suddenly, an extremely powerful green beam hits the hero's makeshift shield during the fight. Withstanding the impact, the young man notices that the green spike almost managed to pierce his entire defense. Spotting a dangerous and hidden shooter, he tells the blonde girl and the driver to find cover. Immediately, the two of them run to protect themselves behind a large rock near the mountains. Just then, a heavy-set soldier approaches, revealing that the bees in that nest are terrified of fire. But before he can attack, the man is suddenly pierced by the deadly green spikes. With that, the fuel tank on the soldier's back leaks and causes a huge explosion in the area. Protected by the shield, the hero looks to the side and finds the insect that shot the green spikes. Analyzing the beast on her tablet, the girl is terrified to see it's a hound, class queen. She despairs, realizing that military intelligence failed, as that nest is a high danger zone. Slicing through the normal bees, the hero says he'll focus on taking out the leader and asks for his friend's help. Accepting the dangerous plan, the blonde girl activates her powers, creating a strong gust of wind around her. With that, the girl activates her elemental power, summoning a great windstorm. The strong winds toss all the monsters into the air, completely disorienting the enemy bees. Seizing the opportunity, the hero charges forward with his shield towards the beast's large nest. With his eyes glowing intensely, he focuses his energy and soon finds the main target hidden there. At that moment, the monstrous queen prepares to fire another of her poisonous spikes from her stinger. But the warrior quickly rips off his jacket and begins to cover it with his strong red mist. Surprisingly, the molded clothing takes the form of a long, giant spear resembling a lethal drill. Then, with a very strong stomp, he shatters the rock on the ground and gets a huge boost for his attack. The young man then leaps high into the air with the improvised weapon aimed directly at the monarch of the beasts. Using all of his tremendous strength, the protagonist hurls the sharp weapon, and the spear cuts through the strong winds. The launched attack is so fast and brutal that it creates a large, luminous trail tearing through the air. And as expected, the precise strike pierces the full creature's body head on, with no chance of escape. However, the young scientist is astonished to see that the perfect attack caused no apparent damage to the beast. She wonders, quite startled, how a simple, inferior creature from that nest could have such armored defense. The terrible answer comes when the creature begins to glow, absorbing energy and evolving to another rank. Desperate, the blonde girl runs towards her friend, demanding that he not let the evil beast escape. But the warrior simply collapses to the ground, admitting he used up all his energy in the previous attack. With her hands on her hips, the young woman observes the fallen young man and thinks it's all just drama to get help. Resting on the ground, the recruit returns the taunt, assuring her he has no interest in spoiled little girls. With a smile, she sits down next to her ally, offering a small piece of chocolate to replenish his strength. The rest of the military team then approaches, securing the area to set up a defensive base. In peace, everyone can finally observe the immense and sinister, glowing structure of the nest in the landscape. Looking at her device, the young woman confirms that the toxicity level of the place remains extremely low and safe. Excited, the blonde girl climbs onto the car and proposes they exterminate the beast right now, taking advantage of its current injuries. The scene pulls back and cuts directly back to the immense military base in the large capital city. In the large meeting room, the military chiefs are seriously debating the protagonist's potential. The platinum-haired veteran recognizes the young boy's absolute value, demanding they keep their full attention on the rookie. However, one of the captains there receives an emergency alert on his communicator and needs to take the urgent call. Terrified, the officer informs his superiors that the danger level of that recent search mission has skyrocketed. The senior commander dislikes the warning, knowing that the young woman would never put her team in such a foolish gamble. The leader orders the deployment of the Burning Blood unit to provide support and annihilate the nest of beasts. Suddenly, a soldier enters the room, and the leader is startled, wanting to know what he's doing out of the hospital. The veteran informs Yongsan that his brother will remain under Song-Ru's command, without giving any explanation. With authority, the chief gives a direct order for Lin Yongji to report to Captain Song-Rui. The other soldier then questions if it was his colleague who arranged for the young man to be with Song-Rui before. The old man dismisses them both and thinks this is the most he can do for someone worried about the hero. Meanwhile, at the nest, the hero and the blonde girl walk on, as only their suits can resist the red mist. Entering the cave, the girl warns that the energy readings of the place have barely changed. Worried, the young woman warns that if the queen evolves to the suzerain class, things will get much harder. But suddenly, the young man shouts for her to stop, and the young woman is confused, not understanding why. A giant creature then bursts from the ground, right in front of them in a surprise attack. The beast reveals itself as the Bee Queen, which has evolved into a monstrous suzerain class. The scientist is shocked, as the red mist there shouldn't have been strong enough for this evolution. To make matters worse, even the other venomous bees seem to be much stronger. The young woman despairs, noticing that the mist has already passed the alert level, and the alarm didn't sound. At that moment, the young woman starts to cough and falls to her knees, feeling the effects of the mist on her body. Angrily, she reveals that their suits were sabotaged, and that there is a traitor in the Burning Blood unit. The nest begins to shake, and several spikes emerge from the hole, showing that more beasts are coming. Without a second thought, the young man grabs her hand, and they both start running to escape the danger. The hero thinks that the mist is great for him, but his priority is to get his friend to safety. With a powerful kick, he breaks a large rock in the scenery to create a small, safe shelter. The young man tells his ally to hide there, saying she'll be able to hold out for a bit. The young man asks her to inform reinforcements about the suits and assures her he'll hold off the beasts alone. Confident, the girl accepts and says she will pass on all the updated data about the situation to HQ. Seeing him walk away to battle, the scientist calls his name, wanting to give him one last warning. The blonde girl makes a cute threat, saying that if he doesn't come back, she'll hunt him down to the ends of the earth. With a confident smile, the warrior turns to her and guarantees he will return from that fight. He turns to the beasts and begins the fight, crushing one of the bees with a simple stomp on the ground. Facing the queen, the hero thinks that now he can protect those he loves and fulfill the promise he made. Prepared for the fight, he creates a sphere of red energy and assures himself he will not fail. The warrior finds himself completely surrounded by the giant bees and their powerful, monstrous queen. He focuses his crimson energy and prepares one last shot, knowing he can't waste this chance. With great effort, the young man condenses all the red power into a single sphere of pure energy. He then fires his crimson burst attack, which creates an immense beam of pure destruction. With that, a gigantic red explosion consumes everything in its path with great power, but the attack ends up hitting a large rock formation in the distance, causing a huge impact there. When the dust settles, the young man looks ahead, wondering if his attack actually worked. Suddenly, the protagonist notices the strange red mist forming around his own feet. To his surprise, all the creatures are still alive, their eyes glowing in the darkness of the smoke. With a shocked expression on his face, he can't believe his strongest attack had no effect at all. The scene flashes back 3 minutes, and we see the blonde girl fixing her device, confirming it was sabotaged. With a tool, she adjusts the equipment and says that now it will measure the mist properly. The device triggers a danger alert, and she is shocked because the reading is double the alert limit. The explosion from outside then hits her shelter head on with great force. Hiding, the girl looks out of the cave, wondering what that loud explosion was. The young woman realizes that the explosion only made the situation worse, making the poisonous mist even denser. She understands that the beasts evolved quickly by absorbing the mist, and even the scouts became hound class. Back in the present, the hero begins to fight the evolved bees using his bare fists. The young man notices that the more he fights the insects, the stronger they seem to get around him. Even with the mist, he notices he's using up his energy much faster than he can recover it, blocking another blow. The young man knows that at this pace, he'll soon run out of strength to continue. From her hiding spot, the scientist watches everything and wonders if her friend will be able to hold on. She notices a mark on his neck and understands that his suit was also sabotaged by the traitor. Looking at the meter, the young woman sees that the contamination levels around him won't stop rising. Desperate, the blonde girl realizes the readings keep climbing and that he's about to lose control. Determined to help, she creates a sphere of wind and says she needs to disperse the mist around the young man. With a swift motion, the girl launches her wind pressure bullet technique in his direction. The wind attack hits its target and begins to spin, creating a vortex that pushes the red mist away. With a thumbs up, she yells for him to seize the chance and attack right now without hesitation. The protagonist seems to activate some kind of device in his hand to detonate something with a click. The gust of wind hits him, and he is confused, not understanding what's going on in the middle of the fight. Shocked, the hero curses under his breath when he realizes the unexpected attack came from his own ally. He complains that the mist is gone, and with it, his energy supply has been completely cut off. Seizing the opening, the monstrous bees prepare to attack the weakened warrior. The creatures then fire a shower of poisonous green spikes towards the young man. With no energy to defend himself, the protagonist is hit head-on and thrown hard against the ground. The spikes strike him squarely, and the venom begins to paralyze him completely as he falls. Suddenly, more spikes fly in his direction, while he is still recovering on the ground. The warrior knows he won't be able to dodge the attack in time and prepares for his end. But by surprise, Assistant Lin appears and uses his own body as a shield to protect him from the blow. The spikes pierce the soldier's back, and the hero is in shock seeing his ally sacrifice himself. The protagonist screams the assistant's name, completely stunned by the man's sudden appearance. Lin is a strength-type warrior and tells the young man to focus on the fight, as the battle isn't over yet. The two of them then get up and stand side by side, ready to face the approaching swarm of beasts. Unexpectedly, a powerful purple lightning bolt cuts through the air and destroys several bees at once. Captain Song Rai appears with her electric rifle, and the hero is startled by the arrival of reinforcements. Confused, the young man asks what the captain and the assistant are doing in this dangerous place. The white-haired woman explains that she received direct orders from headquarters to provide support. With a battle cry, the captain orders all units to advance and finish off those insects. At that moment, several elite soldiers storm the nest, ready to begin a total massacre. The leader orders Team A to use flamethrowers and Team B to provide cover with medium range fire. She then orders Lin and the protagonist to fall back and regroup with the rest of the troop. But the monstrous queen prepares her glowing stinger to fire a final, desperate attack. A super fast red beam is fired, and one of the soldiers shouts for the assistant to be careful. The captain tells them not to look back and to keep running while she prepares a strike. Using her weapon, she fires the electromagnetic annihilation technique, creating a field of lightning. The strike creates a high-voltage electric field that collides with the bee queen's attack. The energy destroys and paralyzes everything in its range, and the beast's red beam is disintegrated. The electric attack hits the queen head on, and the soldiers celebrate the success of the powerful technique. The beast is paralyzed but tries to escape, and the captain orders them to eliminate the swarm and prioritize the rescue. Surprised by the attack, the hero is shocked by the woman's strength, while the assistant reveals her secret. As the soldiers burn the bees, the hero looks for the blonde girl, and the platinum-haired woman points him in the right direction. The girl complains that she almost became a goner, but is soon reminded that she still owes her friend a big favor. With the rescue complete, the leader orders the extermination of the swarm, while the young man discreetly absorbs the mist. The warrior realizes that his last attack failed against the queen and understands he needs to try again. With his red eyes glowing, he is relieved to have recovered all the energy he spent there, but suddenly, the young man hears a very strange noise and turns his head, startled by the new situation. The captain and the rest of her troop are also in complete shock. As they look in the same direction, the monstrous bee queen begins to absorb all the smoke from the nest, creating a massive hurricane. The soldiers panic, realizing the beast is undergoing an absurd and terrifying evolution. The scientist checks her device, terrified, noticing that the danger level there is about to exceed the limit. At that moment, the creature emerges from the smoke, revealing its new, dark form with large red eyes. To make matters worse, a large swarm of smaller beasts appears, surrounding the entire troop from all sides. Determined, the warrior advances alone and tells the troop to handle the swarm while he takes down the queen himself. Impressed by the young man's bravery, the platinum-haired woman agrees and immediately orders her men to provide support for him. Several energy shots hit the beast in the air, while the hero understands he needs to deliver a fatal blow. With a very swift leap, the young man uses his crimson claws to unleash furious slashes against the creature. But the young man realizes that just using those claws won't be enough to win the battle. At that instant, the evil creature gathers power and spits a destructive sphere in our hero's direction. The brutal blow causes a massive explosion, throwing the boy at high speed back to the hard ground. Without losing his balance, the warrior lands safely and lifts his face, very curious to see the damage caused. But the answer soon arrives as an immense, sharp spike flies out from the smoke of that large attack. The young man dodges and understands that firing pure power is useless. He urgently needs a good, lethal weapon. He then notices the queen's massive spike stuck in the rock and immediately gets a crazy idea in his head. Using all his strength, the warrior rips the sharp item from the rock and completely envelops it with his mist. The stinger transforms into a scarlet sword, and the hero leaps into the air, cutting through the wind in his path. Holding the heavy weapon with one hand, he focuses all his remaining energy to deliver his final attack. The young man ironically thanks the beast for giving him a weapon as a gift and immediately hurls the object with absurd force. With a terrifying look, the warrior puts all his focus into the throw to destroy the dangerous enemy. Like a powerful lightning bolt, the scarlet spear pierces through the terrible beast's body, causing super fatal damage. The spear hits the queen head on and causes a gigantic explosion, kicking up a lot of dust. A red glint then appears in the air, and the warrior notices a small crystal falling from there. Shocked, the young man realizes that the shiny item is the suzerain class beast core. With a smile on his face, he decides to take the valuable item for himself and firmly grips his spear. At that moment, the warrior absorbs the stone into his chest and feels his energy recharging rapidly. But the energy proves to be too strong, and the young man groans in pain, feeling like he can't handle it. His eyes then begin to glow a bright red as he loses all reason. Suddenly, a strong energy attack cuts through the air, taking out several bees along the way. The platinum-haired woman leads the troop, clearing out the enemies, and finds the creature's sudden weakness strange. The military leader then looks to the side, surprised, and sees the warrior collapsed on the ground nearby. Startled, the captain calls the rookie's name, trying to wake him from that bizarre trance. Quickly, the blonde girl checks his vital signs, noticing his super fast heartbeat. She warns that the hero has suffered too much exposure to the mist and is at high risk of going mad. In a hurry, the platinum-haired woman orders Assistant Lin to use the medical pod to block the damage. The scene then cuts to the temporary base camp, where a large vehicle arrives quickly. Inside, the young man is placed on a stretcher while the captain orders the scientist to monitor everything. The equipment closes, turning on immediately, and applying a strong anesthetic to the injured boy. But the captain knows this is only a temporary fix, and that she needs to get him back to the base. In the young man's mind, a frightening shadow tries to force him to embrace the power of those beasts. The warrior wonders if he will meet his end there, and remembers the people he loves and wants to save. He recalls the promise he made, and the smiling face of his beloved little sister. Memories of his masters telling him to live fill his head like a final warning. His little sister asks for his safe return as the dark shadow advances on him. Suddenly, the voices of his good teammates echo, asking him to wake up. The warrior bravely resists and shouts in the face of his own shadow, fighting for control. Gathering his strength, the young man breaks the chains of darkness, assuring himself that he must live. He then points forward, telling the specter to share that heavy responsibility. A strong red light emanates from the hero's body, shattering the entire mental seal to pieces. The young man then understands the absurd price of using all that evil and terrifying power. In the real world, the young man's mind remains trapped as the armored car flees the desert. Inside the vehicle, a driver complains that the sandstorm is too strong to drive in. The assistant mentions the ruins of an ancient city and suggests it as a temporary shelter. Worried, the white-haired captain asks the blonde girl about the protagonist's current condition. The girl replies that his vital signs are stable, but the young man has not yet regained consciousness. With that, the leader orders them to enter the ruins and for the rest of the convoy to follow right behind. The armored vehicles then advance through the storm towards a large, abandoned building. Arriving at the shelter, the captain orders everyone to disembark so they can finally rest a bit. But the woman feels something strange in the air and asks the scientist to scan the entire surrounding area immediately. She then orders the soldiers to protect the young man, saying it's a high-priority order from HQ. Up high, two hooded men watch the group, preparing for a treacherous ambush. Suddenly, a shower of arrows hits the soldiers by surprise, and one of them is injured in the arm. Assistant Lin yells for everyone to take cover while activating his body hardening ability. The blonde girl dodges and notices the arrows are coated with a very dangerous needle, wasp venom. At that moment, a massive rock is hurled in their direction, and the captain shouts for everyone to run. Using her electric power, the platinum-haired woman destroys the rock in mid-air before it hits the military convoy. With purple lightning surrounding her body, the woman prepares to face the unknown enemies. The assistant uses his own body as a shield to protect the scientist from the debris falling from the sky. more hooded figures appear and shout not to let anyone escape and to steal all the items. One of the mysterious enemies then throws several glass bottles towards our soldiers. The bottles explode, releasing a green smoke, and the captain wonders what kind of attack it is. The captain covers her mouth and warns that the paralyzing gas came from a Dominator-class beast. With that, the hooded men advance, shouting for their allies to attack all at once. A brute with a giant axe charges at the platinum-haired woman, wanting all of her items. But the woman uses her purple energy to block the blow and tells the enemy to get lost. The strong electric attack throws the big guy far away with a very violent and powerful impact. Suddenly, a chain with a hook is thrown and latches onto the pod, where the hero is resting. The military leader falls to her knees, feeling her entire body completely paralyzed. The bandits then pull the chain, excited, thinking there's a great treasure in the metal box. Desperate, the blonde girl runs towards them and shouts for those men not to touch the pod. But halfway there, the girl is hit by a well-aimed arrow in her left leg. Lying on the ground, she calls the protagonist's name as the villains flee, taking the pod with them. Inside, the mark on the young man's chest begins to glow with a strong and intense red energy. The platinum-haired woman crawls to her friend, feeling like a failure for letting them take the hero. With her hands on the wound, the young woman breaks the arrow in anger and says she needs to endure it to help. The scientist finds it strange that the enemies already knew their route and had prepared a perfect ambush. The assistant reports that most of the enemies have fled and that they must have used an underground route. Soon, a soldier finds an abandoned elevator, which is likely the entrance to the Hediot. The captain orders everyone to prepare for combat, as the main objective is to rescue the young man. With the troops assembled, the woman assures them that failure is not an option, and everyone agrees with her. At that moment, the vehicle's driver asks to join them on the dangerous rescue mission. He insists, saying the protagonist is his best friend, and he can't just wait around. The leader reluctantly agrees and tells the driver to stay close to her so he doesn't get hurt. Meanwhile, the bandits complain about the pod's weight, and one of them shouts to get out of the way. With his eyes glowing red, the villain's leader raises his axe to open the box. But his powerful strike with the heavy weapon doesn't even manage to scratch the metal pod. The man complains that the box is tougher than a safe, and that not even their tools worked. A young blonde man approaches and guarantees he can open it, but to do so, they need to go downstairs. The second in command gets angry and warns that downstairs is a dead end, and that no one has ever returned from there. But the young man insists there's a key in the underground, and even proposes a small bet. Angrily, the other man grabs him by the collar, and the blonde proposes a deal to get out of there alive. Inside the pod, the protagonist wakes up and realizes he's in an enemy hideout. He notices his abilities and senses have been enhanced, and that he can feel everything around him. The system displays his new abilities, including the venom gland stolen from the bee queen. The bandits then reach an underground location with the giant skeleton of an ancient beast. The young blonde man points to the skeleton and says that is the key to opening the metal pod. Suddenly, a large explosion occurs and throws all the enemies far away with the impact. One of the villains yells to the chief, warning that the box just opened by itself out of nowhere. The hero then emerges from the smoke and uses his new venom gland ability on the enemies. Hit by the toxic mist, the bandits begin to scream in pain, feeling the venom in their bodies. Looking at the fallen men, the young man finds his new support ability very useful for combat. The bandits' leader is shocked to realize there was a person inside that pod. He accuses the young man of letting himself be captured on purpose, but the hero just calls them idiots. The villain boasts about being a rank D warrior, saying he will crush the young man like an ant. Angrily, the man charges to attack, but the protagonist just scoffs at his power rank. The hero then activates his Venom Vein ability and prepares for the lethal counterattack. He blocks the enemy's punch and easily lands a poisonous blow to the man's face. With that, the powerful attack throws the bandits' leader against the wall with absurd force. The protagonist turns his head to the side, curious, upon hearing a strange noise nearby. Surrounded by a dark aura, he glares at the blonde boy and asks if he wants to fight too. but the young enemy faints from fear before he can even answer the question. The hero looks around and is impressed by the number of beast skeletons in that place and notices that the bones are damaged and that the monsters were forced to fight to the end. With his new senses, the young man can feel the captain's signals 10 floors above him. With a smile, he finds the woman impatient and breaks off a piece of the skeleton to use as a weapon. Meanwhile, the rescue troop fights the bandits who stayed behind in the ambush. Assistant Lin uses his hardening ability to block the shots and protect the team. He then charges forward and lands a powerful kick to the face of one of the enemies to knock him out. A soldier reports that the area is secure, but that there's no sign of the protagonist around. The captain notices claw marks on the wall and suspects there is a secret hideout in the area. The driver looks at the tracker and says the hero is just below, but the signal suddenly disappears. The platinum-haired woman panics, thinking the medical pod was destroyed, and the young man is in great danger, but suddenly, the warrior appears, falling from above and carrying the blonde boy's body while smiling at the troop. Everyone is surprised to see the boy is completely fine, and the captain asks what was down there. The young man explains that he found an ancient beast arena, and the assistant quickly questions if they should investigate it. The woman orders the troop to fall back and asks who the strange little boy being carried on his back is. Just then, the prisoner wakes up completely frantic and pulls out a small dagger to attack our hero from behind. With hatred in his eyes, the small enemy shouts for the protagonist to disappear as he advances with the weapon. But the small knife fails to cause any damage to the warrior, only creating sparks as it hits his tough skin. The protagonist used his strong scale armor to protect himself, and the impact ended up breaking the fragile weapon. Glaring at the boy with a malicious look, the young man asks if he is so eager to meet his end. With a bleeding face, the boy struggles, cursing the soldiers and saying they are all a bunch of trash. The hero realizes the prisoner is infected by the red mist and lands a chop on the little one's neck. With the quick attack, the blonde boy falls to the ground, completely unconscious, dropping a small card from his pocket. A soldier picks up the paper from the dust and is startled to notice it's an old ID of his good ally. The captain looks at the photo closely and notices they look very similar, concluding they must be brothers. With that, the soldier carries the boy on his back while the platinum-haired woman says the prisoner needs healing. The warrior then uses his own hand to absorb all the toxin from the boy's body in an attempt to save him. The scene then cuts to the outside of the large and secure headquarters of our feared main squad. Seeing the group return, one of the gatekeepers tells his partner to run and inform the chief of their arrival. At the entrance, the captain immediately orders the assistant to take the injured blonde scientist straight to the medical wing, but a sentry extends his arm, blocking the path, and warns that everyone must go through an inspection there. The sentry demands a full search of everyone's suits, making the team's great leader super irritated. The platinum-haired woman asks who gave this absurd order and tells the guard to call his superior at that very moment. The sentries then point their rifles, demanding cooperation, while the protagonist glares at the men. Suddenly, a preppy young man with dark hair appears, smiling and saying it's just a misunderstanding. The woman glares at the young man, very angry, and reminds him that they are veteran soldiers and don't need this search. The slick rival cynically says it's for the base's security and asks our hero to cooperate, but the platinum-haired woman loses her patience, activating her purple energy aura, and warns that the slick guy isn't in charge there. The chief orders her troop to ignore the weaklings and move on, leaving the rich kid shouting for them to wait. The annoying guy points to the unconscious boy, calling him a filthy threat, but the soldier says he's his ally's brother. The arrogant rich kid smiles maliciously and orders the guards to apprehend the hero, saying that trash belongs with trash. With that, the armed soldiers surround the young man, and the captain turns around, asking if they are going to disobey an order. The leader then becomes furious, activating her purple aura and extending her hand towards the preppy guy, but the warrior steps in front, taking charge of the situation, and activates his own green, venomous energy. He then touches the slick rival's shoulder, who immediately tries to issue a warning about challenging the authorities. The villain is startled, realizing he's been discreetly poisoned without even noticing the quick attack. With a cold smile, the protagonist says the rival's methods are dirty and tells him to back off right now. The preppy guy then falls to his knees, completely weak, while the hero scoffs at his fragility. Looking at the scared guards, the young man tells them to take the trash back to rest at the barracks. The group goes on their way, ignoring the fallen rival who, in his thoughts, vows revenge against the warrior. The platinum-haired woman wants to know what the rookie did, and he assures her the annoying guy will just be in bed for a few days. In the medical wing, the blonde friend reports that her suit was sabotaged with an acid to make it fail on the mission. The young man explains to the general that he was the main target and that his ally just got caught in the crossfire. Hearing this, the older commander suspends them both from all missions until the investigation is over. The old leader asks the chief scientist to assign trustworthy people to protect his daughter there. With a very serious expression, the white-haired scientist agrees and says he will take care of security. The commander then orders his daughter to focus only on staying safe during that entire period. A few days pass, and we see our hero resting on a park bench, looking at the calm sky. He thinks about the suspension and the traitor infiltrated in the army, wondering what he should do now. Suddenly, his great soldier friend appears, running and calling the protagonist with great urgency. The driver whispers that he found a photo with that rescued boy, revealing it to be our hero's sister. In shock, the young man grabs his friend's arm with extreme force, asking if he's telling the truth. The two of them soon arrive at the medical room, and the protagonist quickly asks about the little boy's condition. The doctor explains that he is restrained and stable, finding it strange how the infection suddenly disappeared from the patient. In a great hurry, the warrior pushes the doctor out of the way, warning that this is now an internal mission. He reveals that he was the one truly responsible for curing the heavy contamination that was in that little boy. The young man approaches the bed, showing the old photo, and the patient struggles, trying to get the picture back. The photograph shows the little blonde boy right next to our protagonist's missing, beloved little sister. Very serious and with a focused look, the warrior points to the girl, demanding to know where he found her. The boy is terrified by the pressure and answers, trembling that he saw her months ago at a refugee center. The hero demands to know where his sister is, but the boy just replies that he doesn't know anything. Desperate, the little blonde boy shouts that everyone disappeared, including his brother who promised to come back soon. At this, the protagonist remembers the promise he made to a young woman, assuring her he would come back for her. The friend explains that the blonde boy's brother went missing after receiving another mission during the refugee evacuation. Suddenly, the warrior places his hand on the boy's chest, and his friend is startled by the sudden action. With a smile, he makes a shushing gesture and asks the driver not to tell anyone there. He then offers a deal and says he will help find the brother if the boy tells him everything he knows. Showing the photo, the young man asks for a vote of confidence, assuring that he can help the tide. Up, little boy. The boy asks what was done, and the hero replies that it will benefit them both in the end. Finally, the boy accepts the deal and begins to tell his story, starting from 6 months ago. The scene cuts to the military base's cafeteria, where several soldiers are eating peacefully. His friend questions if he's really going back, and the young man confirms it, as his sister has been missing for over half a year. The colleague reveals that the captain suspects a traitor, and that's why she sent him to follow the protagonist closely. With a determined look, the warrior says he came for his sister, and that no one is going to stop him. Unexpectedly, the captain appears behind him and questions, who said they would try to stop him from going. The platinum-haired and blonde woman arrive, and the scientist brags about the military base's advanced medical technology. They then go to a small meeting room to talk about the matter in private. In the room, the protagonist asks the two of them how they found out about his private investigation. With a smile, the blonde girl shows a tablet with the security camera footage from the little boy's room. The friend becomes furious and accuses the scientist of spying on them the whole time without permission. Giving a wink, She says she was just protecting everyone from the base's internal problems. The platinum-haired woman reveals that she asked the doctor, and he then explained the situation to the young woman so she could get the footage. Seriously, the leader says she won't stop him, but hopes he can finally trust her as well. The young man looks at the captain and seems to finally understand that she also really wants to help in his search. The blonde girl clings to his arm and also asks the young man to show a little more trust in her. The driver friend also stands up and guarantees that he will always give his full support to the warrior. With everyone's support, the captain asks the hero to explain his next plan to the group. With a smile on his face, the protagonist lowers his head and agrees to reveal his entire plan to them. The scene then cuts to the ruins on the outskirts of Chishi City, showing the great destruction. A brute informs a mysterious boss that the protagonist is already on his way to Chishi City. Over the phone, the shadowy boss receives the information that the protagonist is on his way. With a malicious smile, the brute celebrates and says the young man is finally finished. Days later, at a city checkpoint, armed guards inspect the cars. Stuck in traffic, the people in a luxury car complain about the chaotic situation at the entrance. The captain explains that the mission is not official and that her personal car is more discreet. From the back seat, the friend asks if it's safe to leave the scientist alone at HQ. The hero says she has her own way of investigating and will provide support from a distance. At that moment, a guard approaches and knocks on the car window for a security check. But suddenly, a watchman screams in terror upon seeing a great threat approaching. A pack of monstrous wolves with red eyes runs towards the checkpoint. Terrified, the city guards begin to flee, completely abandoning their posts. From the car, the platinum-haired woman complains that those cowards are leaving the civilians behind. Determined, the warrior gets out of the vehicle and prepares to face the pack alone. The beasts leap over the cars and begin to attack the men who are trying to run away. A civilian screams desperately for help as one of the wolves prepares to attack him, but the hero appears in front of him and uses his red claws to block the beast's strike. He tells the man to run if he wants to live, as he faces all the other monsters around. The system shows that these are the Iron Wolves, a dangerous scout class. Surrounded by the pack, the young man finds the whole scene extremely familiar. He then remembers an attack from the past, and how he lost everything to those creatures. With a red aura surrounding his body, he vows that he will not let that happen again. A guard is shocked by his power and says to inform Captain Jung of his arrival. Back in the car, the friend praises the hero, who says he'll take care of the rest of the mess. The captain gets irritated and starts yelling at the soldiers who fled the battle earlier. She shows her identification and orders them to stop the inspection and let the civilians pass. Once inside the city, the protagonist senses that the search had another purpose. The woman asks what his suspicion is, and he replies that they seem to be looking for someone. But the young man says the priority now is to investigate the mission files of someone named Shuo. With that, the group arrives at the large and imposing defense headquarters of that city. In the archives room, the hero's friend confirms that all the mission reports are there. Leafing through the files, the hero complains in frustration that he can't find Shuo's mission report. At the computer, the captain also seems very surprised to discover something important in the data. Angrily, his friend reports that even the basic soldier roster has been removed from the files. The platinum-haired woman confirms that the local database been erased, and he wonders if it's a dead end. The young man then grabs his phone and asks if there are any other options they can investigate. He calls his scientist friend, and the young woman agrees to investigate the case, asking for a little time. The leader explains that the blonde girl has access to the archives, and the friend is impressed by her ability. The friend remembers Captain Jia, a veteran who was Shua's mentor, and knows about the mission. Upon arriving at Captain Jia's house, they find the place ransacked, with signs of a recent struggle. The protagonist finds a piece of material and suspects the city's defense team set everything up. The driver remembers that the hero defended Jia from Zhang Shai, and that this can only be the captain's revenge. The young man understands the inspection was for him, and decides he will face the enemy's head. Now, outside, some soldiers approach, and one of them calls the platinum-haired woman over for a talk. A man with glasses introduces himself as Leben, an assistant from that city's defense team. He then asks for help to rescue Captain Gia, but the woman questions why she should help him. The assistant explains that the beasts are active and that their normal forces can't handle them. The protagonist secretly alerts her, and the woman confirms that she has already figured out their enemy's plan. The platinum-haired woman agrees to help in the search, but demands that assistant Lai accompany the entire group on the mission. Nervous, the man refuses, saying it's not a good idea and that he'll only get in their way. With a cold look, she threatens him, saying that it's an order and not a simple request for help. In the car, she questions him about why Gia went on the mission if the beasts were very active in the area. The hero accuses him of sending the captain to his end, and the man stammers that it was Gia's own request. The group arrives at a destroyed area, and the assistant points, saying the place is just over there. The young man senses something is wrong, because the area should have beasts, but he doesn't feel the red mist. Nervous, the assistant grabs his phone and warns that they need to leave that place immediately. The friend questions him, and the man says his squad came to pick him up because his part of the job is done. He then tries to leave and says the rescue is now entirely in Captain Song's hands. But the platinum-haired woman blocks his path with her leg and warns him that he's not going anywhere. With a serious look, she demands that the man finally reveal what his true objective is. Suddenly, an immense bolt of electric energy falls from the sky and strikes the location with absurd force. With blue energy surrounding everything, the terrified assistant screams, warning that the creature is coming. The explosion of lightning consumes everything, and the assistant screams in terror that he doesn't want to meet his end there. The platinum-haired woman understands that's why there are no low-level beasts, and the young man wonders what it is. The creature soon reveals itself, and the system identifies it as a powerful suzerain, class thunder beast. The monstrous creature with purple crystals and blue lightning stares down the group with a menacing look. Terrified, the aide screams that it's a dangerous overlord, class creature. The hero realizes the missing patrol was taken out by this terrible monster. Scared to death, the aide Lee tries to flee, but the hero's friend stops him from escaping. Then, with a furious glare, the captain orders them not to let the traitor get away. His friend chases after him, warning that the monster is gathering power for a breath attack. The great beast opens its mouth and begins to charge a massive amount of electrical energy for its attack. It then fires a powerful beam of blue energy that destroys everything in its path. The platinum-haired woman acts fast, pushing the protagonist aside to save him from the energy blast. A dense cloud of smoke covers the impact site as the young man watches the destruction. The woman warns that it won't be easy to get out and asks him to hold off the beast while she gets her weapon. The scene cuts to the top of a building where a mysterious man watches the battle from afar. With an evil smile, the man says he now wants to see how the hero will handle this situation. The hero's rival questions how such a small device can control a beast of that class. The man boasts about the technology, revealing that they create extraordinary beasts in a facility. With an ambitious plan, he says that once they capture the hero, the city of Chishi will be all his. Back in the fight, the young man analyzes the creature and realizes it's an elemental-type beast. He believes the Beetle Queen's venom should be effective against this type of monster. With that, he charges forward and lands a direct hit on the creature's chest with his red claws. But the beast's electricity throws him back, and his body reverts to its normal human form. Looking at his arm, the young man is surprised that his beast form was forcibly cancelled. He remembers that this ability is similar to the captain's electromagnetic bullets. The creature prepares another electrical attack, while the warrior is still on the ground recovering. With a powerful slam on the ground, the beast sends the young man flying from the force of the impact. He manages to land safely, but electricity is still coursing through his entire body. Taking a deep breath, he understands he can't let his guard down for even a second against this enemy. The warrior faces the monster and notices that its armor of lightning prevents him from getting close. The captain appears with her weapon, and he asks if she can nullify the creature's electric armor. She confirms this explaining that her ability can cancel out others for a short period of time. The hero says a single moment is all he needs and asks her to leave the rest of the fight to him. The platinum-haired woman yells to the young man that this is the only chance they have to attack the enemy. With her weapon, she fires an electromagnetic annihilation projectile at full force. The attack hits its mark, and the creature's lightning armor is completely neutralized. He seizes the opportunity and uses his beast claws to poison the monster with one strike. With a focused look, he boasts about the potent venom he took from the giant beetle queen. The venom works, and the creature's movements become increasingly slow and heavy. Using his speed, he dodges the monster's counter-attack with great ease. With a flurry of attacks, he uses his claws to finish off the creature once and for all. He notes that without the captain's help, he wouldn't have won and vows to become stronger. But the creature gets back up and, in a mocking tone, asks if he's leaving already. The henchman worries about the beast's defeat and asks his boss what they're going to do. The captain watches the hero from a distance and realizes he has grown a lot lately. She understands that she also needs to get stronger to keep up with his pace in battle. The villain smiles and reveals he didn't bring just one beast of that class to the fight. Suddenly, the platinum-haired woman spins around, startled as she senses a new threat approaching. Another overlord-class creature appears out of nowhere and attacks the woman with its sharp claws. The protagonist is also shocked to see a second monster appear on the field. The green beast opens its enormous mouth, preparing to devour the captain in one bite. But the warrior acts quickly, pushing the woman away and saving his friend's life. She hits the ground from the impact of the push, but manages to escape the monster's attack. The creature's claws strike the ground with force, destroying the spot where she was standing. Desperate, the platinum-haired woman screams her friend's name upon seeing him in extreme danger. The creature manages to grab the young man, trapping him inside its mouth full of sharp teeth. The scene focuses on the monster's teeth as they slowly close around the young hero. But the warrior uses all his strength to hold the beast's mouth open and stop the attack. With a furious shout, he manages to pry open the monster's mouth and escape the trap. Back on the ground, he complains that the enemies are really taking the battle against them seriously. The system identifies the beast, and the captain asks if the young man is okay after the attack. The hero is surprised to see the creature turn invisible, and the woman explains its ability. She warns that without support from someone with super senses, it will be very difficult to deal with this enemy. Suddenly, the first beast fires a blast of pink energy toward the two heroes. Woman wonders if the creature's lightning ability has already recovered from the previous attack, but the hero senses the presence of the other invisible beast approaching from behind them. He realizes the first attack was just a distraction for the other's surprise strike. The green monster appears and hits him with a powerful blow that catches him by surprise in mid-air. The warrior is thrown hard to the ground, and the captain desperately screams his name at the scene. Angrily, the platinum-haired woman gathers electrical energy in her hands to counter-attack. She then lands a punch charged with an electromagnetic bomb on the enemy creature. The monster is sent flying by the force of the powerful captain's electric attack, but the creature recovers quickly and disappears again into the smoke from the explosion. The young man gets up and says he can feel its movements with his magnetic field. He promises to go straight for the takedown, and the woman confirms the enemy's position for him. The platinum-haired woman shouts that the creature is coming from behind, and he prepares for the big blow. The hero shoves his arm into the monster's mouth and asks if the creature likes to eat a lot. Then he creates a sphere of red energy to blast the beast from the inside out. The explosion goes off, completely destroying the monster's head in a single fatal blow. The creature's body lets off smoke as the hero observes the result of his attack. With a smile, the young man celebrates that one of the enemies has finally been defeated. Now, the two of them look at the thunder beast and prepare for the second round of the fight. He asks if she can use that shot again, but the woman says she doesn't have the energy. But she reveals there's another way to break that monster's lightning armor. The platinum-haired woman uses her energy to create an ionized protective layer on her friend. The warrior says that 10 seconds of protection is more than enough for his plan. With the captain's protection, he charges forward with everything he's got, knowing he has only one chance. The beast attacks with its electric tail, but the hero dodges the strike with great agility. He continues to dodge the attacks, getting closer and closer to his big target. The young man concentrates all his power into his right hand, creating a powerful thunder claw. With a single strike, he pierces the creature's chest with his new lightning ability. The villains are shocked to see that both Overlord-class beasts have been defeated by them. The boss orders a retreat, saying he needs to get reinforcements from the Green Vine group right away. The creature finally falls, and the hero declares that the long battle is finally over. He removes the 2 cores from the beasts and decides to split the spoils with his friend. With the items in hand, he turns to talk to the captain about their plan now. But he finds her collapsed on the ground and runs over, worried to see what happened. His friend arrives, dragging the traitor, and asks with concern about the platinum-haired woman's condition. The young man explains that she just overused her ability and is completely exhausted. From a distance, the boss orders them to aim the missiles and ignore their traitorous aide. A huge explosion occurs, and the aide screams at the boss for abandoning him. Desperate, the man reveals that it was all a plan to capture our great hero. The boss gets angry because none of the shots hit, due to the electromagnetic field in the air. The hero tells his friend to take the captain and the traitor back to the base immediately. He asks him to inform the unit chief about the betrayal of the city's defense team. The driver arrives with the car, and the warrior complains that they would be too easy of a target. He tells his friend to get out of there and assures him he can cover their escape. With a kick, he deflects the missile, and his friend is shocked by the hero's incredible strength. The car speeds away as the young man intercepts all the large projectiles. The henchmen are frightened by his approach and try to buy time for reinforcements. But the warrior charges forward, taking down several enemies with a single blast of his energy. The boss is shocked by his strength, even after the fight against the 2 great beasts. In the blink of an eye, the hero appears in front of the villain and hits him with a powerful punch. With his beast claws, he finishes off the enemy with a precise and powerful attack. The villain begs for his life, warning that powerful people are involved in all of this. But suddenly, a mysterious punch hits the protagonist with great force in the face. He's sent flying by the impact of the blow. Without even understanding what just happened, a man in a red coat appears, and the system identifies him as a rank B warrior. The young man asks who he is, but the man just says that's none of his business. The newcomer launches a swift attack toward our hero to test him. The protagonist manages to block the blow with his arm, but feels the heavy impact. A frantic exchange of blows begins between the 2 warriors on the battlefield. The 2 face each other with clenched fists, a great energy surrounding their bodies. With a powerful kick, the man in the red coat calls him weak and sends him flying. He then fires several blasts of yellow energy in our hero's direction. A massive explosion engulfs the area, kicking up a thick cloud of dust all around. Fallen and injured, the young man gets up, and the enemy complains that he's just a sewer rat. The one in the red coat scolds the captain for losing even with 2 strong beasts. He then leaves, letting his henchmen handle the rest of the dirty work. Angrily, the villain kicks the fallen protagonist and complains about his great stamina. Then he takes out his phone and makes a video call to someone named Jia-jun at the base. The call shows 2 guards and Captain Jia, who is trapped inside a cage. The villain then shows the defeated hero to the prisoner, who is shocked by the scene. Jia yells furiously at the captain and tells him to deal with his problems directly. The hero is captured, and the villain orders him to be taken to the beast-taming base. At that moment, the protagonist decides he will absorb one of the cores he got from the battle. The scene cuts to an underground base 300 meters below the city. The hero is chained up inside a large tube filled with a greenish liquid. The system announces that the core has been absorbed, and his eyes glow with a purple light. With a new dark power, he shatters the chains and frees himself from the large tube. With a single touch, he breaks the glass, and the water begins to leak out everywhere. All the greenish liquid from the tank spills out, completely flooding the room's floor. He realizes he's in a hidden base, and that it's located near the city ruins. In the control room, the scientists receive an alert that the test subject has escaped. The monitor shows the last image of the hero, before the camera signal was lost. Then, the security camera screen fills with static and goes completely blank. A squad of armed guards is assembled to capture the fugitive alive immediately. Covered in an aura of shadows, the young man stares at the open door in front of him. The guards storm the room but realize the test subject is no longer anywhere to be found. Using his stealth, he slips past one of the secret base's guards unseen. He thinks the effect is good, but he can only maintain this form for 10 minutes at most. Running through the corridors, he decides he needs to find Captain Gia quickly. He then passes by 2 guards, talking near his friend the captain's cell. With a swift blow, he knocks out the 2 guards who were in the base's hallway. With that, he finally finds a badly injured Captain Gia inside the cell. The 2 embrace happily, and the captain praises his younger friend's strength. The young man gives his friend water and apologizes for getting him involved in this whole mess. The blonde man asks if he found any clues about someone named Shuo and his disappearance. The captain reveals that many soldiers have vanished on mysterious special missions. The hero understands that someone very powerful is behind this whole evil plan, but suddenly, a squad of armed guards appears at the end of the base's corridor. The captain tries to protect his friend, but the guards are ordered to capture him alive. Without a second thought, the warrior leaps toward the enemies to engage in combat. In seconds, he defeats them all and declares that he won't leave there empty-handed. He then asks if his friend can still move, and Gia boasts about his strength. From a control room, the villain orders all the beasts to be released at once. Furious, he shouts that if the hero escapes the base, they will all be finished. Just then, the protagonist senses a great threat and raises his hand for his friend to wait. A horde of monstrous beasts is unleashed to attack the 2 of them in the long corridor. He understands that creating beasts is a crime and activates his claws for the great battle. With a single swipe of his claws, he destroys several of the creatures in his path. Meanwhile, the villains run to their cars to destroy the data and get away. With an evil smile, the villain says the beasts will keep the hero plenty busy. But suddenly, a powerful punch hits the villain with full force, knocking him to the ground. The hero appears in the destroyed passageway, staring down at the fallen enemy with great anger. Desperate, the villain screams as he realizes he's not in the getaway car with the others. In the car, the real villain says goodbye to the henchman, leaving him behind to be dealt with. A massive explosion occurs, and the villain understands he was used as a sacrificial pawn. He then tries to use the captain as a hostage to protect himself from the furious hero. The young man approaches and demands to know who is behind this whole evil plan. Just then, he notices that Captain Gia is already right behind the villain, holding an umbrella. Terrified, the villain gives up and reveals that someone named Mr. Hong ordered everything. The hero accuses him of tampering with the patrol files to hide all the clues. The desperate villain offers to take the hero to Mr. Hong to save his own life. He explains that the main passage was destroyed, but there's a secret path just below. With that, the man points to the manhole and assures them they can use that hidden passage. Down in the tunnel, the group complains about the strange smell, and the hero plans his next move. Suddenly, the protagonist feels an oppressive presence coming from the depths of the dark cave. With that, he realizes there is something very dangerous nearby in this underground area. Soon, a creature with glowing red eyes emerges from the shadows to attack the group. The scene cuts to a storage facility where the captain is investigating the current situation. She informs her companions that she found nothing but bodies in that place. The blonde woman says the clues are too vague, and she can't piece the puzzle together. Then the scientist gets angry with the driver for leaving the hero behind all alone. She reveals she has already reported everything to her uncle, who seemed furious with the news. Just then, one of the traitors is brought in, and the captain says they need to get information from him. With a kick, she demands the man tell her everything he knows about the mastermind of the plan. The blonde girl threatens him, saying that if he doesn't confess everything, he will meet a tragic end. Terrified, the traitor reveals that the villain was accessing the mist storage system. With that, the man assures the group that there is definitely something very wrong over there. The driver suggests waiting for reinforcements, but the captain decides to investigate on her own. The platinum-haired woman explains that the main mission is to ensure the safety of someone named Lu Ji. Next, the scene cuts to the entrance of the large mist storage system. Upon arriving, some guards block the entrance and warn them that it's a restricted area. But the woman doesn't waste any time and, with a powerful kick, clears the way for her team. The other guards get scared and try to warn Mr. Lu about the group's intrusion. Already inside the base, the man in the red coat watches the group approaching the site. The captain warns her friends to be careful, as this could be an important location. Suddenly, the blonde girl notices an attack coming from above and prepares for combat. With a swift movement, she manages to dodge the blow from the man in the red coat. Then the young woman attacks with a spinning kick to defend herself from the strong enemy. The masked man compliments the girl, saying she has very quick and interesting reflexes. With a knife in hand, the platinum-haired woman prepares for the fight and demands to know who he is. Without answering, the man in the red coat attacks with a kick, creating a shock wave. The captain's friend steps in front and uses his armament hardening to protect them. With that, he manages to block the masked enemy's powerful kick with his arms, but the force of the impact sends the defender and the scientist flying with great violence. Furious, the platinum-haired woman charges with her knife and tries to hit the enemy from behind. Her friend then warns that this man is at least a dangerous rank B warrior. The woman attacks with an electric strike, but the masked man dodges with great agility. He then attacks with a precise kick right to her side. The platinum-haired woman is thrown hard to the ground, feeling the heavy impact of the blow. The man in the red coat moves in to finish the fight with another powerful kick. At that moment, he throws an object toward the woman to daze her. For a moment, the blonde girl panics because the captain doesn't fight well up close without her special weapon. The villain grabs her by the hair and calls her pathetic for being even weaker than the hero. In great pain, she wonders how the protagonist was defeated by someone like him. The masked man throws her into the air and is surprised to see she's not finished yet. But as he's about to strike again, a strong arm firmly grabs his fist in mid-air. Suddenly, the hero appears and shatters the enemy's mask with a very powerful punch. The man in red is thrown with full force and slams violently against the wall. The impact embeds him into the structure, causing a large crack in the concrete. The protagonist then picks up the captain, and the blonde girl complains that she wants a rescue too. He lands safely while holding the platinum-haired woman princess style in his arms. Worried, the warrior asks if she's okay, and the woman is surprised by his arrival. She stares at him in silence for a moment, seeming quite shocked by the situation. With a smile, he also asks if she's okay after all that commotion. The scientist interrupts, yelling that they still have a big problem to solve. On the other side, the masked man gets up and wonders what on earth just happened. He glares at the protagonist, who explains that it was his old friend who brought him to this place. From a hole in the wall, Captain Jia appears, pointing a weapon at the surrendered traitor. The man in the red coat becomes enraged, swearing that a grim fate is the only destiny for traitors. With a look of hatred, he charges to attack the traitor, who screams desperately for help. But the hero appears and blocks the blow, saying the traitor can't be taken out yet. The platinum-haired woman warns that the villain knows many secrets, and the warrior agrees with her. Furious, the masked man shouts that a mere sewer rat can't possibly stop him. With that, the hero rushes in with a sonic punch and a flurry of swift blows at the enemy, but the young man dodges and calls him slow, while attacking with a powerful kick. The blow launches a blast of energy that shatters a wall with a huge impact. Greatly annoyed, the enemy unleashes his aura and vows that the protagonist will fall today. Then the man in the red coat launches a powerful sonic wind blade in his direction. The hero simply dodges the wind blades with a very calm and confident look. The blonde girl is shocked to see that he's also a wind-type ability user like her. The captain questions who the enemy is, and the traitor reveals he's one of Mr. Hong's men. The masked man creates several wind blades around the warrior for a massive attack, but the young man destroys them all with ease and asks if that's all he's got. At high speed, he charges forward and says that rank B guys are all talk. With a punch, the hero hits him, and the villain wonders if he lost on purpose before. The force of the blow creates a massive shockwave that echoes throughout the entire area. The man in red sinks into the wall and yells that this is all completely impossible. With another punch, the warrior embeds him even deeper into the wall, and the villain screams in pain. Suddenly, the red mist begins to leak out, and the captain orders the group to retreat. The platinum-haired woman suggests playing with the imposter, and her friend agrees with his leader's idea, but the scientist stops her from leaving, saying she has an idea to resolve the situation. Surrounded by the mist, the villain takes out a small vial to make himself even stronger. He then drinks the liquid, explaining that it will absorb the power of the red mist. With immense power, he challenges the hero, calling him a simple, defenseless ant. At that moment, the villain fires a giant red energy blade toward his enemy. The powerful attack explodes with full force, creating a massive crater of destruction in the ground. The protagonist is impressed by the speed boost the villain got from the mist. Now the two are exchanging blows at a speed comparable to that of a rank A warrior. With his power, he blocks a punch and is impressed by his opponent's strength. The exchange of blows creates a shockwave that destroys everything around the two fighters. The villain asks how long he can block and says it's time to end the fight. But suddenly, the man in the red coat notices something strange and becomes very confused. A large wind barrier appears, isolating the red mist from the rest of the group. The blonde girl uses her ability and casts the powerful blessing of the Tempest to help. With a blue aura, the hero feels his body become lighter and thanks her for the special technique. Furious, the villain fires a red mist cannon to finish them all off for good, but the young man blocks the attack and questions if this is his so-called absolute power. The masked man is shocked and wonders if his great attack was absorbed by the enemy. In the blink of an eye, the hero appears and lands a powerful uppercut on the villain's chin. He then continues with a sequence of punches that hit the enemy from all sides. The young man warns that he doesn't need the mist and prepares a strike with an ice aura. The attack throws him to the ground and traps him with rock spikes forming all around. With red eyes, the hero approaches the enemy and demands to know where the boss is. From a secret control room, two men in suits watch the fight on a monitor. Mr. Hong reveals himself and says the protagonist is more interesting than he thought. He then decides they need to increase the level of attention they're giving that young man. The big boss orders them to destroy the remaining data and retreat from the location with him. With a device, he says he'll let that guy downstairs clean up the whole place. A large container begins to glow with a red light and slowly opens. A giant snake-like creature awakens, saying that it's hungry. Back in the fight, the hero steps on the fallen villain and demands to know where Mr. Hong is. The scene focuses on the enemy, unconscious and foaming at the mouth after the last attack. The blonde girl complains that he was too rough, and the young man says he didn't even use his full strength. He then questions the traitor about the patrol members, and the man promises to help. The group follows the traitor down a dark staircase to the lower floor of the base, but the man warns that the door requires a password that he doesn't know right now. With a powerful kick, the protagonist breaks down the metal door without any effort. Once in the hallway, he asks if everyone is there, but the traitor doesn't know the answer. Suddenly, the hero stops walking and notices something strange at the end of the corridor. With a serious look, he points ahead and alerts the group to the danger right there. He reaches a door and says he feels people inside, but can't use brute force. The blonde scientist offers with a smile and tells the hero to leave it to her. The young man asks if she can open it, and the young woman assures him she's a great expert. That the girl uses her laptop and begins hacking the sealed doors system. In seconds, she gains access and, with a final click, finishes the job. The large metal door opens, and the group enters to see what's inside. Inside, they find a laboratory with dozens of people in containment pods. The blonde girl and her friend are shocked by the scene, and she becomes furious with the kidnappers. Enraged, the platinum-haired woman grabs the traitor and demands to know what the villains are doing there. Captain Gia recognizes Shuo in a pod, and the hero prepares to rescue him. But the scientist stops him, warning that the devices are life support for the hostages. At that moment, the captain receives a call and orders reinforcements to come to the base immediately. Suddenly, a strange device begins to flash with a very bright red light. The group approaches to see what's happening, and the light becomes even more intense. The traitor falls to the ground in terror and starts screaming as he recognizes the device. The blonde girl analyzes it and sees that the machine releases a highly concentrated red mist. The ground begins to shake, and the whole group wonders if it's a strong earthquake. The young man shouts that something is coming and tells everyone to get out of the way immediately. The scientist is paralyzed with fear as red spikes emerge from the floor, but the hero acts fast, pushing her away and throwing himself in front of the massive attack. The villain in red transforms into a beast, and his friend is shocked by the terrible scene. The platinum-haired woman is surprised because the creature's appearance is the same as her dear uncle's. The warrior grabs the device and understands that it's a lure to attract the beasts. He runs with the lure, and the captain follows him as he tells the rest to protect the area. Outside, they see a helicopter, and the creature begins to chase them. From a building, Mr. Hong observes and wonders how many more surprises the hero has in store. With all his strength, the protagonist throws the device as far as he can. The large red beast leaps into the air and chases after the lure that was thrown far away. Suddenly, a giant worm-like creature bursts out of the ground with full force. It then opens its enormous mouth and prepares to devour the other beast in a single bite. The hero and the captain look on in shock at the immense creature that emerged from the base's ground. Meanwhile, several military trucks with reinforcements arrive at the storage base. Inside one vehicle, the driver explains that the captain called them to a laboratory there. Suddenly, the soldiers are startled to see the giant monster coming out of the base's ground. One of the leaders worries that the captain and the others can't handle that threat. He then prepares for battle and jumps out of the moving truck. With his special gauntlets, he announces that he is the only one who can fight the monster. The instructor orders them to take the reinforcements to the lab and runs ahead of everyone. With a powerful leap, he jumps toward the great creature with a fiery aura. Once on the ground, he wonders what on earth is happening in this abandoned place. The system identifies the creature as a Q-long of the dangerous giant behemoth class. With its glowing red eyes, the creature glares at the two heroes with great anger. An aura of red energy surrounds the two. As the monster's pressure increases immensely, the great creature opens its enormous mouth and prepares to attack them both at once. The protagonist wastes no time and activates his beast claws for the great combat. With a swift strike, he tries to cut the creature's skin with his red claws, but the attack has no effect, and the creature throws him away with a blow from its body. He warns that his attacks aren't working, and the platinum-haired woman says they need to retreat. But the young man says the creature wants him, and that he will hold it off to protect the hostages. The woman is shocked by his decision and says she can't agree with that plan. He charges forward, vowing not to let the clue he found be destroyed by the monster. In the lab, the scientist sees that all the hostage data has been destroyed by someone. With an irritated look, she realizes they are dealing with an expert in the matter. The reinforcements finally arrive, and the driver introduces himself to Captain Gia on site. Gia says he's okay thanks to the hero, and asks with concern where he has gone now. A new soldier introduces himself and says he came to help the captain with the city's rebellion. The captain's friend explains the situation and asks where Commander Lin Yongsan is. Back in the fight, the hero uses his stealth and runs along the giant creature's back. He then unleashes several attacks in sequence, but the monster's skin is tough. The creature notices the attack and tries to crush him with a strike from its own head. The hero leaps with agility and manages to dodge the great serpent creature's blow. With a precise strike, he hits the monster's eye with his sharp beast claws. He then uses his new poison vine ability to attack the ground of that location. But suddenly, some tentacles emerge from the beast and trap the young man with great force. The creature brings him to its mouth and prepares to devour him once and for all. The captain points her finger and prepares a mini version of her powerful lightning weapon. The blast of electrical energy hits the creature and manages to save the hero from danger. Collapsed and exhausted, she realizes using a special ability without a weapon is too much for her. The monster turns towards her, and the protagonist runs to protect his friend from the attack. Unexpectedly, a large fiery explosion hits the creature with full force. Instructor Lin appears and asks if the two of them are okay after all this confusion. He looks at the creature and realizes it's from the dangerous behemoth class. The system identifies him as a rank A fire user, and he tells them to leave it to him. With a great wave of flames, he attacks the giant monster with all his power. The protagonist is impressed by the rank A's power and calls him very strong. The creature's body is completely engulfed by the powerful instructor's flames. But to everyone's surprise, the monster emerges from the fire without a single scratch on its body. The instructor realizes the battle won't be as easy as he initially thought. With a roar, the creature faces the heroes and prepares to attack the group. The man of fire gathers his flames and challenges the monster to come and fight. The creature then opens its mouth and fires an immense blast of sand in their direction. The sandstorm covers the entire area, leaving the heroes with no visibility. The instructor warns them to be careful, as everyone's vision is completely blocked. But suddenly, the protagonist realizes there's something very wrong with the situation. He screams desperately to everyone as he sees the monster has gone underground. The young man acts fast, pushing the captain away and telling her to dodge the attack. The creature then erupts from the ground with full force and attacks the spot where they were standing. The instructor asks if everyone is okay and says they need to clear the sandstorm. But suddenly, a wind pressure bullet appears and dissipates all the dust from the area. The blonde scientist appears and asks with a smile if everyone is all right. The captain asks what they are doing there and what the situation is at the underground base. Her friend explains that reinforcements have taken the base and the hostages are being moved. With that, the blonde girl suggests they distract the creature to look for an opportunity. But suddenly, the monster starts digging and tries to escape underground again. The scientist uses the blessing of the tempest and creates a powerful tornado of fire and wind. The combined attack hits the creature head on, creating a massive explosion on sight. The flames and wind consume the monster's body, and the heat spreads throughout the area. The creature then opens its mouth and begins to charge a large sphere of red energy. The protagonist and the blonde girl are shocked to see that the monster has not been defeated yet. The instructor explains that the creature has a very rare regeneration ability. The young woman complains that it's impossible to find the core in such a large, living body. But the monster fires its sand blast, and the scientist tries to block it with her wind. The platinum-haired woman feels the pressure and releases her electrical energy to try and help the group. With her electromagnetic induction, she creates a kind of X-ray to see the monster's body. The ability works, and she can see the skeleton and the red core of the creature. With that, she points and announces that the most intense energy reaction is in its abdomen. Her friend helps the exhausted captain, and the instructor tells him to take her far from the battle. With a fiery aura, he informs the creature that he has finally found its weak spot. A large fireball explodes at the exact location of the core, opening a hole in the beast. The scene focuses on the large red core, which is now completely exposed to the group. The instructor and the scientist join forces and attack the core with everything they have. But the core's defense is too strong, and normal attacks can't break it. The hero realizes he needs a powerful attack, but has already used up all his mist. Suddenly, he sees the device the villain used to power up in the battle. He then grabs the vial and decides he will bet everything on this one chance. The young man breaks the vial and absorbs all the concentrated red mist at once. The creature throws the instructor aside and moves to attack the defenseless captain. With the power of the mist, the hero appears in front of her and grabs the monster's head. The beast tries to devour him, but he holds its mouth with his hands and stops the massive attack. With a look of desperation, the captain's friend shouts that the battle is finally over. With a cry of pain and fury, the protagonist unleashes all his accumulated energy. He then creates a super, giant crimson explosion that strikes the creature's core. With a determined look, the young man yells for the beast to withstand all his power now. With his hand, he controls the energy sphere and throws it toward the exposed core. The powerful attack hits its mark and pierces through the giant serpent creature's body. The monster's claws crack, and the red energy sphere explodes with full force inside. An immense fiery explosion completely destroys the monster from the inside out. After the battle, the hero passes out and has a dream about his dear missing sister. In the dream, the young woman calls him brother, and he is surprised to find her again. Crying, she hugs him and asks where he's been, and he apologizes to her. Suddenly, he notices something strange and asks the girl why she is there. With a confused look, she asks what he means by that in the middle of nowhere. They are in a dark place, and the young man wonders what this place around them is. Suddenly, a mysterious flame appears in the hand of an unknown man in the dark. The flame grows and consumes the man's body, while the hero's sister screams in fear. He screams in pain amidst the fire, and the girl watches him, desperate at the scene. Terrified, she tries to reach him, but the fire prevents her from getting close to her brother. The hero wakes up startled, and in a cold sweat in bed after that terrible nightmare. He shouts his sister's name and wonders if that was a dream or something real. He gets up and asks where he is and what happened after the last battle. The instructor explains that he is in the Special Units Medical Research Institute. The man reveals that the young man slept for 3 days, but seems to be all right now. With a wry smile, the hero agrees and thinks that he needs to find his sister soon. He asks about the base, and the instructor says that everyone is fine, and the beast was defeated. Worried, the protagonist asks about Shuo, and the instructor seems very hesitant. The scientist bursts into the room and celebrates that the warrior has finally woken up. She begins to examine him and is shocked to see that he has no symptoms of infection. The blonde woman wonders what kind of biological structure he has to have survived. Annoyed, the young man pushes her away and tells her to stop messing with his body. He then seriously asks the scientist about his friend Shou's condition. The scientist explains that Shuo has a large amount of concentrated mist in his body. She warns that he won't regain consciousness anytime soon, and the hero is surprised. Filled with anger, he wonders what the villain's boss is researching with all of this. The instructor informs him that the traitor Zhang Shi has already confessed everything he knew about the case. The young man asks what he said, and if the Green Vine group is really involved. Suddenly, the captain appears and reveals that it was all done solely by the captured traitor. He is outraged by this story and says it's impossible for him to have done all that alone. The platinum-haired woman agrees, saying there's an invisible hand manipulating everything behind the scenes. She then calls him to a meeting with the chief of staff to discuss the matter. In the hallway, he asks how she knew he was there, and she thanks the scientist. The young man complains that he's going to be monitored all the time, and she just smiles at the situation. Arriving at the room, the instructor knocks on the door, and a voice from inside tells them to enter. Once in the room, the blonde girl jokes with an old man, saying she caught him eating snacks alone. The man then turns around and tells everyone to sit down so the meeting can really begin. He warns that the news of the hero's victory has already spread, and that he is in the eye of the storm. The chief asks what the young man's plans are now that he has attracted so much attention. The hero says he wanted to act in secret, but now wants to hear the chief's opinion. The old man says the traitor is hiding something, and that he needs more information. He explains that the Green Vine group has a lot of cooperation with the military at the moment. A man with glasses warns that they can't investigate the group without concrete proof. With a serious look, the hero asks what he means by the term superiors. The chief reveals that he is talking about the highest level of the government and the apex of that world. Understanding the situation, the young man says he wishes to borrow some power. He then realizes that the chief wants to use him as a pawn to do the dirty work. The captain stands up and questions why they still want to involve the protagonist in this. The instructor says that instead of being prey, it's better to become a hunter and fight back. The chief agrees and tells the young man to weigh his decision carefully before answering. Outside, the hero thinks that instead of becoming prey, it's better to become a hunter. At the training camp, the chief organized a 3-month training session for the new team members, but the training is a cover to find spies and unify the army's voices. The young man thinks he needs more power and will use the training to consider the chief's invitation. A large screen then displays the recruits' scores, and the protagonist is in first place. He realizes his 210 points are worth 210,000 alliance coins. Because of this, other soldiers complain that he has too many points and doubt his actions. A rival says the hero got lucky in the battle, and that instructor Lin carried him. Suddenly, 2 girls defend him and tell the rival to stop talking nonsense. Just then, a captain arrives and tells everyone to stop the pointless arguments right now. Captain Tang Yi explains that the points were verified, but he understands their curiosity. He then proposes a duel with the hero and wagers 40,000 alliance coins on the fight. The blonde girl gets excited about the coins and tells the young man to fight and win that huge fortune. The protagonist accepts the fight, thinking he'll use it to establish his authority. Everyone then gathers to watch the fight and comments that Captain Tang is a strong B rank. The captain creates an ice gauntlet and says his beast core is the freezing type. With a punch to the ground, he creates a wall of ice spikes against the protagonist. The young man then jumps high into the air to dodge the powerful ice attack. As he lands, he thinks that the captain's power is much stronger than Lu Feng's. The captain says it's not over yet, and launches several ice fragments in his direction. Countless ice spikes fly at high speed to hit the protagonist. He dodges and realizes the destructive power is strong, but the speed isn't that great. The captain then uses his glacial star-slash ability to attack his opponent. A giant wave of cutting ice energy is fired at the protagonist, but suddenly, the hero activates his transformation and prepares his powerful counterattack. With his beast claw, he moves quickly and surprises the captain with his speed. Suddenly, the instructor appears between the two and stops the fight with his flames. The man of fire declares Yan Hao the winner and asks if the captain has any objections. The captain agrees with the defeat and says the young man let him win the big battle. The crowd is in shock over the defeat, and he says there should be no more doubts. The blonde girl celebrates the 40,000 coins and says he should give them all to her. The rival gets angry upon realizing the huge power difference between the two of them. Filled with hatred, he swears he will get stronger so he can defeat the hero one day. A month passes, and we see 2 men talking in a very luxurious office. The man with glasses reports a beast-man attack in the country's northwest region. The scientist is shocked and says the analysis shows it's his missing brother. He explains that the chance of a beast-man regaining their sanity is very minimal. The chief decides they need to eliminate the threat, but the scientist warns him about his daughter. With a serious look, the chief says that some sacrifices are necessary for the greater good. Suddenly, the platinum-haired captain gets a call as she's getting out of the shower. On the call, a person tells they have some very important information for her. In a hurry, the young woman gets dressed and runs desperately down a very long hallway. She barges into her father's office and questions him about the news of her dear uncle. The man tells her not to get involved and that a special team will handle the matter. With a desperate look, the girl begs to be allowed to go with the team. Annoyed, he asks if she would have the courage to shoot her own uncle if necessary. With that, he forbids her from leaving the headquarters and removes her from the mission of protecting the hero. Disobeying orders, the captain goes to the base's underground parking garage. There, she finds the blonde scientist, who was already waiting for her arrival. Her friend hands her a backpack and says she'll distract her father for a while. In a memory, she sees her uncle protecting her from a giant spider monster. While driving, she thinks that everything would be different if she had been more courageous in the past. With determination, she vows she will find a way to save her uncle and speeds up the car. Back at the base, the protagonist and his friends are eating together in the cafeteria. The blonde girl jokes that he finally got a clue and thanked her with a good meal. The hero's friend is impressed with the food and says he hasn't eaten this well in a long time. The young man says he's just returning the favor and asks where Captain Song Rai is. His colleague explains that the platinum-haired girl took a few days off for a personal matter. The hero reflects on the captain's actions and wonders what she wants from him. Suddenly, the blonde girl's phone starts vibrating on their dinner table. She then picks up the device and looks at the screen with a very serious expression on her face. The blonde girl shows the phone to the protagonist and tells him to look at the screen. With that, she reveals that their friend Shuo has finally woken up from his long coma. The hero's colleague suggests calling Shuo's brother, as he had promised to help. The group then rushes to the Medical Research Institute to find their friend. In the room, we see the blonde-haired young man finally awake after a long time. His younger brother emotionally hugs him and asks where he's been all this time. The hero interrupts the reunion and says he needs to ask some important questions. Shuo asks who he is, and his brother explains that the young man is their benefactor. Then, the protagonist shows a photo of his sister and asks if he remembers her. The blonde young man takes the photo and tries to remember the girl with a confused look. The blonde girl helps and reminds him it was on a rescue mission on March 11th, 2088. With that, he remembers the day of the Crimson Fog when they formed a rescue team. The scene was tragic, and the city was full of monsters and infected people everywhere. Amidst the chaos, they found the girl near a helicopter that had crashed there. She had no serious injuries but couldn't remember anything at all, so they took her to a military shelter to keep her safe. He says that 2 days later, 2 men with a warrant took her away for treatment. The hero asks where they took her, and Shuo says he wanted to accompany her for the treatment. He then reveals that the destination was Soyan City, and that an accident occurred later. The young man is shocked to hear the name Soyan City, and repeats the location's name. The blonde girl realizes it's the same place where the captain's uncle was seen and finds it suspicious. Meanwhile, in Soyan City, the captain is investigating a remote, mountainous area. She thinks they found no news of her uncle in the city, and that he might be in the mountains. 2 guards patrol the area and comment that the boss ordered them to reinforce security. From a cliff, she observes 2 trucks loaded with mysterious giant eggs. The platinum-haired girl hides and thinks that the cargo in those trucks is not ordinary at all. But suddenly, she realizes a surveillance camera has spotted her in her hiding place. Just then, the guards find her and point in her direction, shouting loudly. One of them pulls out a weapon and tells the other to inform the boss about the strange woman. The captain flees as they shoot, and the guard yells for them to notify the perimeter. Running through the forest, the captain tries to escape from the guards, who are chasing her relentlessly. The guards surround her, and the young woman finds herself in a very complicated situation. With a serious look, she decides she can't waste time and unleashes her electricity. With a wave of lightning, she strikes the enemies and clears a path to continue her escape. She thinks she can't use all her power, but that was enough for them. The remaining guards are impressed to see she is an ability user. Suddenly, a big, strong man appears and tells everyone to get out of his way. The platinum-haired girl faces the new opponent and prepares for the battle about to begin. With a direct electrical attack, she hits the large man's chest with all her might. To her surprise, the man smiles and says the attack didn't hurt him at all. He then grabs the girl's wrist, stopping her from continuing her attacks. With a single blow, the villain throws her far away with very impressive strength. The B-rank underworld boss introduces himself and stands there, watching the fallen young woman. With an imposing look, he then asks the girl who sent her there. The captain wonders why her attack didn't work, and if he's also an ability user. The boss orders his men to capture her, and they all run toward the girl. Surrounded, she tries to defend herself, but the enemies attack her from all sides. She then realizes the boss has a high resistance to electrical attacks. Even without her final move, she prepares to paralyze him with a strong attack. With her electromagnetic annihilation, she attacks the boss with a massive wave of lightning. A powerful blast of electrical energy hits the villain head on with full force. From the smoke, he says he almost lost, but but that she won't get another chance to attack. He reveals a combat suit that amplifies his abilities and resistance. The young woman is shocked to see the suit and wonders how he got military equipment. The boss then tells his men to get her, saying they can have some fun. A henchman approaches, and the girl thinks she's exhausted from using her ability. But suddenly, the man is hit by a swift blow and screams in pain from the attack. The henchman then collapses to the ground, and the captain watches the scene, very surprised. The protagonist appears and asks the young woman if she's okay after the commotion. The guards are surprised by the young man's arrival and call him the girl's accomplice. The boss yells for his men to attack and promises 10% of the mine's profits. With that, all the henchmen rush toward the heroes to begin the big attack, but suddenly, the blonde scientist appears and prepares her powerful wind ability. She then creates a windstorm that throws all the enemies far away. One of the henchmen is shocked to see another ability user and asks who they are. The blonde girl yells, asking why they attacked her Rurue, and the captain gets confused. Angrily, the boss unleashes his dark aura and says they will all pay for this. The captain warns that the boss is also an ability user and that his power is at least B rank. The protagonist then raises one finger and says he can solve everything in 1 second. The boss doubts the young man and advances with his dark energy for the final attack. But the hero calmly faces him and says, "You dare show off in front of me." With his transformation, he uses a heavy blow and hits the villain's face with all his might. The force of the punch is so great that it creates an immense shockwave throughout the area. The big boss then falls to the ground, completely knocked out after the single blow. After the battle, the protagonist turns to the girls and tells them to get out of there first. They then flee the scene on a motorcycle with a sidecar to a safer place. Stopped on the road, he says he heard she skipped training to investigate someone. Eating a snack, he asks if she was investigating those people from before. With a hesitant look, the captain prepares to explain her whole current situation. The young man and the blonde girl notice the lie and think that she doesn't even blink when telling a fib. The scientist asks why they attacked her, and the hero says it's a local gang. He explains that he found their stronghold, but that they aren't his investigation target. The platinum-haired girl reveals that her uncle was infected by the fog and was seen around there. The young man asks why she's investigating in secret, if the head of state didn't allow it. She explains that her uncle's transformation is worse and more dangerous than Lu Feng's. With a sad look, she says it's her fault, and that's why she needs to protect him. The young woman reveals she invited him to get his power and find a cure for her uncle. The hero remembers everything and realizes she wants to save her uncle even against orders. He says he can handle cases like Li's, but that he's not sure about Lu Feng. With a smile and a look of gratitude, the captain thanks the protagonist for his help. The blonde girl says that since everything's settled, they can finally leave. Just then, the captain asks why the two of them came to that place so suddenly. The hero explains that Showa woke up and said his sister was taken there a while ago. With this, he realizes there must be a big connection between all these events. Determined, the young man vows he will find his missing sister no matter what. Back in Soyan City, they find themselves in a very complicated situation now. The blonde girl complains that they're being chased, as if they've stirred up a hornet's nest. The captain says she didn't want to get involved, but now they're just going to power through. The scientist then uses her wind power to attack a guy who managed to escape. The wind attack hits the henchman head on and throws him far away with great force. Suddenly, a mysterious man appears, and the protagonist asks who he is. The man reveals himself to be Captain Tang and says he's on their side in this fight. The captain then tells the group to follow him, as it's not a good place to talk. He explains he came on the chief's orders to find her uncle and ensure his safety. Surprised, the captain asks if he came alone to carry out this dangerous mission. He reveals they found tracks of beast men, but that there's an overlord class aberration there. With that, he says that if they go back now, the disciplinary actions will be much lighter. The platinum-haired girl insists on going, and the scientist supports her, saying they are best friends. Seeing their determination, the captain gives in and shows them a deserted path to the location. He then takes out his phone and informs his companions about the new situation. The hero asks if he saw a research lab while he was in the mountains. Tang confirms he saw an abandoned building and asks how the young man knew about it. The young man understands that the lab is hidden, and that's why they need to go inside. Arriving at the entrance, the captain points out that there's no electronic equipment there. The captain then hands her weapon to the protagonist and tells him to hold it. The blonde girl reveals that the hero used resources to upgrade her weapon as a gift. The captain tells everyone to stay alert, and the blonde girl complains that she was the one who took the risks. He guides them into the cave and says their camp is just ahead. Using a device, the scientist notices that the energy readings in the area are chaotic, but suddenly, a giant serpent creature appears and observes the group from a cliff above. The great serpent opens its mouth and shoots a powerful blast of green venom. The blonde scientist is surprised and becomes the main target of the creature's attack. Captain Tang acts quickly and creates an ice wall to protect the young woman from danger. But the venom melts the ice and hits the captain's arm, who screams in pain from the attack. He warns that the creature camouflages itself and that, now poisoned, he can't help much. With that, the protagonist tells them to leave it to him and runs to face the creature. He then leaps toward the giant monster and activates his beast claws to fight. With several quick strikes, he manages to wound the immense serpent's body. The blonde girl is impressed that he can face an overlord-class monster alone. With his claws activated, he gets ready, showing himself to be the ace of the team. Suddenly, the hero stops and looks up confused as he senses a strange presence. Just then, something mysterious falls from the sky and hits the ground with an incredibly powerful impact. A flaming minotaur appears and is also identified as an overlord creature. To make matters worse, a steel lizard emerges from the ground, and the group is shocked by so many monsters. The young scientist is confused because before there was only one monster of that class. The serpent then speaks to the hero, questioning him for daring to enter its home. The previously defeated boss reappears and says he won't be careless in the fight this time. The hero realizes the villain controls the monsters and that they are very obedient. Captain Tang apologizes and says he will hold off the serpent so the group can fight. The protagonist suggests they split up, and the captain says she will fight the Minotaur. The group then prepares, and each one faces their opponent for the great battle. Tang uses his ice age and traps the serpent's body in several ice spikes. The villainous boss mocks them and says that, with the lizard, the fight is 4 against 1. The young man faces the enemy with a serious look, and just repeats what he said. The Fire Minotaur tells the platinum-haired girl to take back what she said about him earlier. With her new weapon, the captain unleashes her lightning aura and gets very angry. She then aims her electric cannon and thinks her new weapon is very good. The great beast runs in her direction and prepares to throw a super powerful punch. She shoots the ground and creates an explosion to stop the flaming monster's advance. With a precise shot, she then hits the beast's chest with a super strong lightning bolt. The energy shot hits the flaming creature and throws it back with force. Meanwhile, the protagonist faces the large steel lizard with his beast claws. He then attacks the creature, but its steel skin is too tough for the blow. Just then, the blonde scientist attacks from above with a powerful cutting wind blade. The villain just watches the situation with a very dark smile on his face. On top of the monster, he nullifies the blonde's attack, preventing her from hitting the lizard. She is shocked to see the guy can nullify elemental attacks and thinks he's a pain. The lizard then fires a red beam, and the two heroes narrowly dodge it. The young man calls his friend for a combined attack, and she says to leave it to her. With that, he concentrates all his red energy into a sphere in his hand. The blonde girl creates a tornado of wind and earth around the sphere to strengthen the power. The combined attack hits the monster head on and injures it with a great impact. The giant creature roars in pain after being hit by the powerful blow from the two of them. The villain is thrown far away, and the monster is hit by a red energy beam. Lying on the ground, the boss looks very tired and exhausted after all the commotion. Suddenly, the protagonist appears in front of him with a red-eyed stare. Just then, a mysterious clone or friend grabs the villain and throws him high into the air. The villain's body is hit by a pillar of red energy that erupts from the ground. The hero faces the lizard which seems to have some kind of elemental resistance. With a precise cut, he strikes the steel monster and defeats it once and for all. Meanwhile, the Minotaur is hit by the captain's lightning and suffers from the damage. After the battle, the young woman is impressed to have defeated an overlord on her own. The scientist celebrates and says that Sissy also finished her part of the big fight, but the giant serpent breaks free from the ice and roars to continue the battle. Captain Tang tries to hold it with his ice, but seems to be at his limit. With a look of desperation, he realizes he won't be able to hold on for much longer. The protagonist and the captain then jump in to help their friend in the difficult battle. With a triple attack, they hit the serpent's head with all their power. The hero delivers the final blow and finally manages to defeat the last great creature. After the fight, the captain is thankful for the weapon, and Tang tells them to tend to the injured. The scientist praises the battle, and the captain thanks the captain for his help in the fight. Suddenly, the villainous boss gets up and tries to escape the area at high speed, but the captain's men surround him with weapons and order him to stop immediately. The captain says they arrived just in time, and that they need to interrogate the villain. With that, the soldiers grab the man by the neck and capture him for good. The hero holds him, and the villain begs them not to end his life there. The young man asks what he's doing in the mountains, and why the area is blocked off. The man reveals there's a red crystal mine that they sell on the black market. He then points to the mine shaft and begs them to spare his life now. A soldier of the captain says they saw crystal debris when setting up camp, but the hero wants to know how he controls the monsters and about the origin of the military suit. The villain falls silent and starts to sweat, nervous about the protagonist's questions. Annoyed, the young man tells him to speak, and the man reveals that someone is backing them. Suddenly, the defeated Minotaur that was on the ground begins to move again, with a red glow in its eye. The large creature prepares to get up. To everyone's surprise, the Minotaur is still alive and rises with fury. The villain seizes the chance and lunges with a knife to attack the blonde scientist. Meanwhile, in the city's mine, a hooded man enters a cave. The mysterious figure walks down a corridor filled with large red crystals. Arriving at the spot, he says he has finally found what he was looking for. With a shadowy hand, he then extends his arm toward a crystal. He then touches the red crystal and begins to absorb all its energy. The man says that this should suppress the erosion for a while and feels relieved. He turns around and starts walking toward the exit of that mysterious cave. But suddenly, a red-haired girl with horns appears in front of him. With an angry look, she wonders who is controlling the aberrations. Back in the valley of Swayan City, the battle resumes with full force. The villain takes advantage of the chaos to try to attack the scientist and escape. With his knife, he lunges forward, and the young woman is startled by the enemy's surprise attack. But suddenly, a red blur appears and stops the villain from completing his attack. Captain Tang catches the villain's knife with his hand, stopping him from attacking the blonde girl. Angrily, he creates an ice stake and says he's going to grant the enemy's wish. The ice stake then pierces the villain's chest, who is shocked by the attack. Meanwhile, the protagonist and the captain attack the Minotaur with their powers. The captain questions Tang Yi for finishing off the villain, and the hero is confused. He explained it was as a reaction to protect his friend, and that he didn't think much. The captain says the man was dangerous, and that's why he didn't hold back in the fight. The platinum-haired girl thinks he was being overprotective, since the blonde girl could have dodged. Tang says he would rather make a mistake than let one of his comrades get hurt. With that, she agrees and suggests they return to camp to treat his injured hand. Hidden, the red-haired girl observes the group of soldiers from a distance. With a look of shock, she seems to recognize one of the people in that group. Suddenly, the protagonist stops and looks to the side as if he felt something. The young man continues to have a strange feeling and looks back, suspicious of everything. The captain asks what's wrong, and he says it must be just his imagination. Hidden, the girl is shocked to recognize that person and seems very distressed. In a memory, we see the face of a younger boy with a worried look. The memory continues, and the boy now seems to be in a very difficult situation. Soon after, the young man appears smiling with a much calmer and happier look. The memory shows him hugging the hero's sister in an old photo of them. The red-haired girl then cries out in pain and clutches her head tightly. Arriving at the building, a soldier says they've already checked and that there's no one there. The hero finds it strange that the place is abandoned and starts to doubt the story. He decides he needs to check for himself and runs toward the suspicious building. The scientist yells for the young man to wait, but he keeps running without looking back. With a kick, he opens a door and shouts if anyone is in that dark place. Inside the lab, he wonders if this is the place Shou mentioned. The blonde girl observes the area and says it looks like the place was abandoned a while ago. Outside, Captain Tang suggests they look somewhere else now. With that, the two walk together to continue the search in another part of the area. The captain asks if the chief only tasked him with the search or if there's something more. Tang reveals that if the situation gets out of control, he has orders to annihilate. He says the judgment call is his, but first, they need to find her uncle. Back at the temporary camp, the group gathers to discuss their findings. The hero shows a diary and a hard drive that he found in the abandoned lab. The scientist starts repairing the hard drive, while the others analyze the diary. In the diary, they find out about an accident with the fog and the infection of the residents. A note reveals the purification operation and the capture of survivors. With that, the captain says it's all over, and the young man wonders what the alpha test subject is. Suddenly, the scientist celebrates because she successfully fixed the hard drive. With a surprised look, she wonders what's in those recovered files. On the computer screen, an image of a girl in a research capsule appears. Everyone is shocked by the image, and the scientist shows the content to the group. She explains that she recovered a partition, and that the content must be very important. The hero's sister's file appears on the screen, and he is shocked to see her image. The captain asks if he found something important, and the young man seems very tense. With a few clicks, the scientist opens a folder with several mysterious photos. The images show several beasts, men with different appearances and forms. The captain and the hero are thoughtful and surprised by those strange photos. The young man thinks he can't show the diary to Tang because of the information. The platinum-haired girl says the condition of the beast. Men could help her father's research. The captain points to the screen and asks what's in one of the recovered files. On the screen, a photo of a giant creature next to the protagonist's sister appears. The two are shocked to see the young woman next to a monster from the dangerous behemoth class. The captain despairs, and the blonde girl says the photo was taken 3 months ago. With this, he analyzes the photo and discovers the location is the valley on the west side. He decides to take the squad to investigate and asks to be notified of any updates. The captain and the hero look at her uncle's data and are surprised by the results. His bodily indicators exceed the human range and are different from other cases. The young man remembers the man he met in Chishi City and is suspicious of everything. The captain says her father wanted her to investigate a connection with the Green Vine group. The young man realizes the clues are connecting and decides to look for the aberration. The captain and the scientist say they will go with him because the situation is very complicated. The group then walks toward the valley to find the mysterious creature. A soldier points and tells the captain to look at the silhouette on a rock wall. They then spot the giant creature, dormant and camouflaged in the mountain. The captain realizes that's why they didn't find it during the previous search. The scientist analyzes the vital signs and says there's no danger for now. Suddenly, the group approaches the creature carefully, so as not to wake it. They get closer and are impressed by the size of the sleeping creature. A soldier says it's the first time he's ever seen a behemoth-class monster. The blonde girl uses her device and notices that the vital signs are rising rapidly. With a red glow in its eye, the giant monster begins to awaken from its sleep. The creature stands up, and the group is startled to see it was disguised there. The captain orders everyone to spread out and creates an ice wall for protection. The monster then fires an immense blast of fire that destroys the ice barrier. The fiery explosion hits the soldier's head on and throws them far away with force. The captain orders them to call headquarters and wonders about the creature's attack. The scientist says the monster wants to change the environment to trap them there. The protagonist tells them not to worry because the monster has a fixed target. The captain agrees to contain the creature and test the results of their training. The scientist attacks with her wind blades, and the hero with his electric bolts. The captain leaps and hits the monster's head with a super powerful electric blow. The protagonist then digs his claws into the creature and wounds it with his attack. The monster roars in pain, and smoke begins to pour from its mouth from the blow's impact. The captain takes advantage of the smoke and throws a bomb to create a distraction. With that, he yells for the group to take the chance and retreat to a safe place. But suddenly, a red glow appears in the enraged great creature's eye. With a roar, the monster begins to break free, and the captain is startled by the scene. The creature then shatters the rock floor and breaks completely free from the attack. The captain and the hero realize the situation has become very complicated now. With a roar of fury, the giant monster prepares to attack the group. The creature advances, showing all its strength to the frightened heroes. The young man says they need to stop the monster, or the city will be destroyed soon. A soldier warns that it's impossible and tells the captain to retreat from the battle. The beast then fires a powerful blast of fire in everyone's direction. The soldier sacrifices himself and tells the captain and the others to survive the attack, but Tang tells them to leave it to him and prepares his powerful ice ability. He then creates a great wave of ice to clash with the monster's fire. With his glacial star slash, he raises an immense wall to protect everyone. The blonde scientist praises the feat and gives a thumbs up. The captain tells them to attack while he handles the group's defense. The protagonist wonders if he can withstand the blast and about what happened before. The platinum-haired girl asks what's wrong, and the young man is silent for a moment. With a serious look, he just replies to the young woman that he's fine. The great beast begins to charge its power and prepares for the next attack. The captain then fires a powerful energy beam with her big new weapon. The scientist also attacks, launching her powerful cutting wind blades. Both attacks hit the giant creature's mouth head on with full force, but the monster resists the blows and seems to be completely unscathed. The hero realizes that long-range attacks won't work against that skin. With his transformed hand, he lands a direct punch on the creature's face, but the young man feels the impact of his own blow on his arm and is surprised. He is then thrown backward and crashes into a nearby rock wall. The young man thinks this beast is much more aggressive than the one in Chishi City. The large monster then slowly walks toward the fallen heroes. The captain wonders why the creature stopped, and Tang thinks it's tired. The blonde girl analyzes the vital signs and notices they are very strange. She says the monster has internal injuries, which is why it can't attack. The platinum-haired girl realizes the eye on the creature's forehead is the key to the battle. The group then attacks the creature from all sides with their best moves. But suddenly, the monster launches several red crystals from its body into the air. The crystals create an energy net and prepare to explode with full force. A great explosion of light occurs, neutralizing all the hero's attacks. The young man finds it strange because the monster seems to know all their attacks beforehand. With that, he asks for a plan, and the captain says she needs everyone's cooperation. The hero then approaches and draws the monster's attention to become the main target. The great creature fires its fire blast toward the young man to attack him. He then tells Captain Tang to block the attack with his ice power one more time. The protagonist advises them to attack, while the creature is stiff after the blow. With his beast fist activated, he charges forward to hit the monster with everything he's got. The punch hits the creature and creates an opening for the rest of the group to attack. The captain celebrates and prepares to use her large lightning weapon again. The energy shot hits the creature, but it uses the same trick as before. The monster launches its red crystals to defend itself from the powerful attack. The hero then tells the scientist to destroy the crystals with her wind power. The attack works, and the captain's shot hits the creature's eye dead on. She explains that the blow wasn't fatal, but that it sealed the beast's abilities. With that, she yells for Captain Tang and tells him to deliver the final blow now. The man of ice then creates a large piercing spear with his maximum power. He throws the ice weapon with all his might to finish off the creature. The captain smiles and thinks their strategy was simply perfect. But to everyone's surprise, The spear changes direction and heads for the protagonist. The hero is startled and doesn't understand what is happening at that moment. With a look of shock, the young man turns and realizes the captain's great betrayal. The protagonist then absorbs the ice spear with his hand, surprising everyone. He manages to contain the attack and stands still with the ice energy in his arm. The girls yell at the captain, asking if he's gone completely crazy, but Tang just smiles and holds a vial with a red crystal inside it. He then turns to the giant creature and seems to have a new plan in mind. The traitor says that now that the opponent is weakened, he has a chance. The captain questions him and realizes he is the traitor they were all looking for. With a smile, he reveals himself as the great spy infiltrated in the army. He explains that gaining their trust was just one part of his plan. Everything was calculated to use the other monsters to awaken this creature. The beast says it thought it alone would be enough to finish them. The young man asks why he went through all this trouble just for him. The traitor just says he'll understand when he gets to the right place. The creature prepares for a strong attack, and the group is frightened by the scene. The hero tells the girls to hold off the beast while he deals with the captain. The traitor shows his true strength and says he will fight with everything now. The man launches several ice stakes, and the protagonist dodges with agility. Tang realizes that controlling the beast is a greater burden than he imagined. He creates an ice sword, and the hero uses his claw to block the blow. With a kick, the traitor sends the protagonist flying, creating distance. He then fires an energy blast that throws the young man against the wall. The powerful attack blows a hole in the mountain and creates a huge explosion, but the hero emerges from the smoke, and the two face each other for the decisive battle. Tang mocks the young man and says he seems very confident in his victory. The protagonist warns that he wouldn't win even in his best condition, and gets ready. The traitor launches a wave of ice, but the hero defends himself with his own flames. With his frozen domain, the young man is trapped in a large ice prison. Tang creates a new sword and advances to deliver the final blow to the protagonist, but the hero blocks with his claw, and the two trade blows up close. The ice swords and beast claws clash, creating many sparks. The young man manages to dodge the attacks and prepares for his counterattack. With his dark transformation, he unleashes his power and surprises the enemy. The traitor is startled and calls it an insignificant and foolish trick. With his ice power, he creates a large wall of ice spikes on the ground, but the protagonist jumps over it and cries out in pain after being wounded by a spike. The man sees an opportunity and takes advantage of the opening to prepare a quick counterattack. Meanwhile, the great creature roars in pain and seems to be very weakened. The girls ask the hero to finish it quickly because they have nowhere left to retreat. The traitor says he admits the young man's strength, but that the final winner will be him. With a serious look, the protagonist creates a red energy sphere in his hands. He then throws the sphere of power toward his enemy with all his might. Tang creates two ice shields to defend himself from the hero's powerful attack. With a great impact, he manages to block the energy sphere with his shields. But the red sphere begins to collide with and break the traitor's ice defense. The energy breaks through the shield and hits the captain, who is very surprised by the blow. The traitor scoffs at the attack and says it can't possibly break his defense. Suddenly, a large rock begins to fall from the ceiling toward Captain Tang. He looks up and realizes the imminent danger right in front of him. With a cry, the rock smashes the ground, raising a large cloud of dust. The traitor emerges from the rebel and says the young man is naive to think that would defeat him, but the hero appears behind him and says he was just waiting for him to come out. With his poison claws, he attacks the captain and says that no one will stop him now. The traitor screams in pain, reeling from the impact of the powerful surprise blow. The protagonist says the queen bee's venom has already penetrated his heart. He explains that if the traitor uses his ability, the venom will spread faster. But the captain refuses to be a prisoner and reveals he is from Green Vine. With a final breath, he unleashes all his ice power in a massive explosion. The hero watches the enemy freeze himself and wonders if that was his choice. After the battle, the protagonist spits up some blood and seems very exhausted now. He then falls to his knees and admits that the energy consumption was too great. The giant monster roars in pain and also seems to be at its limit. The girls are frightened by the creature and don't know what to do at that moment. The blonde girl says it looks like the hero won the battle against the traitorous captain. The platinum-haired girl calls out to the young man as he slowly approaches the group. With a smile, he tells the girls that everything is fine and that it was nothing. The blonde girl asks about the traitor and says they need to interrogate him soon, but the hero explains that he ended his own life and didn't reveal anything useful. The platinum-haired girl comments that the loyalty of the Green Vine group is much higher. With that, she suggests they return to headquarters because the situation isn't good. The young woman asks what to do with the monster, and the other says it's exhausted. Suddenly, the scientist looks at her device and is confused by the strange reading. A mysterious figure appears, and the blonde girl thinks it's the traitor's reinforcements, but the hero denies it as the man in the red cape faces the large creature. The scientist warns them to be careful because the detector has never been so unstable. Just then, the platinum-haired girl is shocked and seems to recognize the mysterious person. The great creature roars, and the man in the cape charges to attack with everything he has. With a single blow, he passes through the giant monster with no difficulty. The man turns around and the captain calls him Kunkel, revealing he is Song Jiao. The hero is shocked, and the young woman wonders what happened to his loss of reason. The beast man praises the young man's potential, even in his incomplete state. The protagonist is confused and asks what that man is talking about. With a smile, he invites the young man to join him and create a new world. The hero gets angry and yells, asking what nonsense he's talking about. The captain runs toward her uncle and asks him to wait a little longer. The beast man then stares at the girl with a very threatening and cold look. Suddenly, the captain is paralyzed by an invisible force in the middle of her path. She then introduces herself and tells her uncle that she is his niece, Ryer. The man asks if she still recognizes him and remains silent for a while. The scientist asks what to do, and the hero seems very worried about the situation. The young man has a flashback and wonders if the man is like he was in the past. He remembers when he lost control and entered his state of fury. He wonders if the captain can wake her uncle up like his sister did with him before. But he senses the terrible aura and realizes that provoking him now would be dangerous. The captain then begs for her uncle to come back to their side now. But suddenly, she is hit by a dark spike and is badly injured. The beast man holds the captain and calls her an inferior creature without any remorse. He then throws her far away with absurd strength, without a care in the world. The girl is thrown and kicks up a large cloud of dust as she hits the ground. On the ground, the captain appears unconscious and with a large wound on her chest. The blonde scientist is in shock and can't believe what she just saw. With that, she runs to help her fallen friend and screams her name in desperation. Seeing the scene, the hero clenches his fist tightly and begins to unleash his power. The young man then transforms and charges at the beast man with great anger. With his eyes glowing red, he yells that he's going to finish the enemy now. The beast man faces the young man and comments that his form has a lot of potential. Hearing this, the boy clenches his fist in anger and prepares for battle. He then lunges at the enemy, his body crackling with power. The young man's punch is blocked by the opponent, and the two exchange blows. But the protagonist is thrown far away by the force of the impact. Then, the beast man lands a punch right in the boy's face. The opponent then asks if the boy wishes to have this kind of power. Full of rage, the protagonist yells that he's going to finish the enemy. The villain throws him to the ground and says his control is still very unstable. At that moment, a large red creature appears and roars very loudly. The giant monster stares at the beast man and the girl lying on the ground. Next, the dragon launches a blast of energy at the enemy. Meanwhile, the blonde scientist shields herself from some falling debris. The beast man stops the giant monster's attack with just one hand. Lying on the ground, the protagonist wonders who has just arrived. Then, a mysterious red-haired woman appears on the scene. He invites her to join him and tells her not to waste her gift. The girl gets angry and yells that she is nothing like him. The beast man scoffs at her and says the power difference between them is huge. Hiding, a man complains that his plans have now been ruined. He shows a device on his chest and says the price is worth it. The boy then approaches one of the defeated monsters on the ground. With his hand, he begins to absorb the large creature's energy. The beast man comments that it's a waste of power and emotion. He then leaves, saying that one day she will understand all of this. The red-haired woman approaches the protagonist lying on the ground. She kneels beside him and apologizes for taking so long. The girl cries and says she's afraid of not being able to control her power. The boy has a flashback of her asking him not to look for her. She then says she will give one last gift to her dear brother. The red-haired woman approaches the man who absorbed the monster. She then yells at him to go away and glares at him with great anger. He finishes the absorption and says he has finally reached A rank. With a wicked smile, he says the protagonist's time is up. The villain prepares to attack the fallen boy with his new hands, but the girl appears in front of him and stops him from continuing the attack. With a quick blow, she lands a powerful punch on the enemy's face. She threatens him, saying she'll break him into 1,000 pieces if he touches her brother. The man becomes furious and yells that she stole the power he had gathered. The girl helps her brother and asks him to be very careful. The girl hands a red object to her brother, who is on the ground. Afterward, she jumps onto the giant monster's head and faces it up close. With a serious and determined look, she seems to have a new plan in mind. Then, the woman gets on the giant creature and leaves the area. She enters a hallway with several men and gets ready to leave. The protagonist wakes up startled in a different place, calling out a name. A blonde girl appears by his side and asks if he's okay now. He says he's fine, and the young woman is very relieved by his answer. But he gets up and worriedly asks about a girl named Alicia. The blonde girl falls silent and says with a sad voice that she is already gone. The boy is in shock and can't believe what he just heard. In a medical room, the platinum-haired girl is lying down with no vital signs. A doctor explains that there is nothing they can do to save her. An officer then suggests that they try using a special device. The chief of staff orders them to contact Director Jin immediately. In a lab, the director shows an item, and the chief asks if it works. The scientist explains that the core can forcibly restart her life, but he warns that there is a high chance she could end up becoming a beast. The chief says he will take full responsibility for the consequences. The girl is placed in a machine, and the transplant begins. A robotic arm then implants the red core into her chest. The transplant is completed, and a new device is placed on her. An assistant asks if they should activate the beast core now. The director warns that there's still time to stop, but the chief orders them to activate it. With that, the order to activate the beast core is finally given. The girl wakes up in a strange place and wonders where she is now. She sees a giant monster and doesn't understand what is happening. The creature's core appears and asks what she desires at that moment. The platinum-haired girl is very frightened by the scene. The creature says it will take her body and envelopes her in darkness. A large energy explosion occurs in a city building. The protagonist asks why they used his friend's body in an experiment. He and the blonde girl see the explosion, not understanding the situation. The scientist realizes the plan failed, and she has turned into a beast. He then asks the chief what they plan to do now. The girl appears transformed and floats in the air with great power. She launches a large energy blast at the group on the ground. The chief of staff prepares to block the attack with his fist. He then hits the energy blast with a very powerful punch. The man asks them to protect the director and faces the girl alone. He says that no one is permitted to interfere in this battle. With his sword, he states that the girl is his daughter, and he will take care of her. The young beast stares at her father with a serious, emotionless gaze. The chief of staff then prepares to face his daughter. The girl launches several energy blasts at the man on the ground. With a huge explosion, the blasts hit a city building. The protagonist and the blonde girl arrive and wonder what happened. The boy recognizes the young woman, and the blonde doesn't understand her appearance. The beast girl launches an attack against the two with her powers, but the chief of staff appears and tells them to get back. He says it's an order, and that they should not get involved in this. The man then charges forward with his sword to attack his own daughter. The two clash in the sky with a great shock of powers. The man's sword and the young woman's claw collide, creating sparks. The group watches the fight, and the scientist seems worried about the chief. The man manages to touch his daughter, and she is very surprised. With a smile, he says that everything will be okay between them now. The girl's mask begins to crack, and she seems to be returning to normal. She then loses her transformation and reverts to her human form. The scientist and the blonde girl celebrate that the transformation is over. The protagonist smiles and says that the thoughts of a father and daughter are the same. The girl hugs her father and apologizes for what happened earlier. She then begins to cry very loudly in the arms of her dear father. In an office, the red-haired woman asks to stop the operations. The man says this involves the company's interests, and he can't decide. She threatens him, saying that if her brother gets hurt, the cost will be steep. The woman leaves, and the man calls her spoiled, and says she is a weapon. A blue-haired girl is sitting alone on a city bench. The protagonist shows up with a drink and says this doesn't seem like her. She takes the drink and says she was just thinking about her father. The boy asks about him, and she explains her uncle's situation. The young woman says she really wants to help him, but doesn't know how. The protagonist smiles and says he didn't expect her to be so concerned. She gets a little annoyed and asks if that's how he sees her. The boy starts complaining about how she treats him, and the young woman tells him to shut up. He says she is the most relieved person he's ever met and encourages her. With a smile, the girl says she will think about what he said. A week later, a meeting is held at the Special Response Unit. The protagonist and his group arrive, thinking something serious has happened. The chief says the northern lands are full of beast activity. The commander with glasses warns that a beast tide has emerged and the forces have already set up a defense. But he shows on the map that an even more urgent threat has just appeared very close by. Then the leader explains that a calamity-class monster broke through the line and started to make a nest. With a serious expression, the man warns that the consequences will be dire if the beast reproduces. The other recruits are in shock to learn they are dealing with a monster of such an absurd level. The commander reveals that the elite squad will take too long, and they need to attack the nest now. He then adjusts his glasses and asks in a very serious tone who has the courage to go on this mission. The entire room falls into absolute silence, and none of the soldiers dare to say anything. Suddenly, a tall soldier stands up with attitude and states loudly that he will do it. But the young protagonist walks right past him and asks the commander to let him handle it. The recruit gets annoyed, wanting tough fights to grow stronger, and the others soon recognize the rookie. Then the soldier tries to stop the boy, warning that the mission is far too dangerous for him to go. However, the military leader cuts the discussion short and calls the protagonist to his office right away. In the room, the commander explains that the boy's friend can no longer lead the main squad. With that, he appoints the boy as the new leader and asks him to return from this mission safely. The boy turns to look at the digital map on the wall when someone suddenly calls his name. The blonde scientist runs in excitedly and asks if she arrived too late. The young man asks not to be called captain because it feels like she's teasing him, and he quickly changes the subject. She raises her robotic arm with pride and announces that this new combat partner is perfect. At that moment, the other two team members arrive in the room, ready to follow their new leader. The recruit in the cap praises his friend's promotion and says he's been training a lot lately. The protagonist smiles and tells them to cut the formalities, asking everyone to get ready. But the blonde girl lowers her head slightly and asks if they aren't going to wait for their albino colleague. With a sad expression, the boy replies that their colleague needs much more time to recover. The entire team leaves the building, walking to the car, when they hear someone complaining about the delay. The protagonist and his friends are very confused and look ahead, trying to understand the situation. The white-haired girl appears, leaning against the military vehicle in a different combat outfit. The whole group breaks into a relieved smile, and the blonde girl celebrates, stating she knew she would be back. The young albino woman announces that she's back on the team and quickly asks the boy for permission to go on the mission. The young leader smiles, very relieved, and comments that she seems to have recovered very well from everything. The recruit offers to drive, but the girl raises her hand, saying she'll take the wheel. Then, the young woman quickly gets into the driver's seat and calls out to her team with an excited smile. The armored military vehicle takes off at high speed through the city streets, heading towards the great danger. During the trip, the boy asks if she's sure about this, and the girl just tells him to focus. With a look full of intense focus, she states that she will never get lost in her thoughts again. Meanwhile, the giant insect, like beast, roars and prepares itself on the rocks of the isolated jungle. At the enemy base, the man in the suit explains the general situation of the area to a very mysterious soldier. He reports that the large beast is creating a nest and has several monsters guarding its eggs. The man in the suit reveals that the beast produces a rare tissue that is vital for the company's secret project. However, he warns that the army soldiers won't make things easy, and his henchman agrees. The red-haired man in the suit explains that the mission is just to steal the item during the chaos without leaving any traces. He then tells the masked man that he trusts him to get the item, and the villain simply accepts the order. Meanwhile, the military team's vehicle arrives in the jungle when the group notices something strange ahead. The albino girl warns that the situation is much worse than expected, and everyone in the car becomes very tense. With a serious expression, the team leader tells everyone to get out of the vehicle so they can proceed on foot. The entire jungle is covered in a very thick fog, filled with the presence of hidden dangerous beasts. The young man tells everyone to walk very carefully and to always keep their allies in their line of sight. As they walk, the boy asks if his blonde colleague can use her powers to blow away all this fog. But she says it's impossible, and suddenly the leader raises his hand, telling everyone to stop. The albino girl notices a danger coming from above, and the leader warns his team to retreat as quickly as possible. A gigantic energy beam hits the ground with great force, creating enormous destruction in their path. The group manages to dodge in time, and the boy says the fog is too thick for him to find the target now. At that moment, a very large green insect-like beast appears in front of the entire team. As the beast emerges, the fog dissipates a little, and the albino girl readies her weapon, saying they've become prey. The protagonist notices that the monster is past level 4 and realizes it's a Colossus-class beast. The terrifying creature roars, showing its sharp teeth, and prepares to devour the humans in front of it. Without wasting time, the leader transforms his arm and tells the group to use their maximum power to destroy the monster. Meanwhile, in another area of the forest, a huge stone structure rises, emitting reddish smoke. Near the large nest, another gigantic Colossus-class insect monster appears in front of some henchmen. A very strong man with marks on his body appears, saying he will use the beast to show his loyalty to the boss. But the masked villain in the overcoat tells his henchmen to stop attacking when he notices another threat in the area. A dark, winged beast appears on the rock, and the masked leader warns that they need to get the item quickly. Back in the jungle, the large green insect charges forward with its claws ready to slice up the squad. The blonde girl quickly activates her powers and creates a strong wind current to help in the fight. She grants a storm protection that surrounds all team members with a bright blue aura. With his strength increased, the boy dashes into the attack at high speed and tells everyone to advance now. He rushes across the ground, dodging the giant beast's attacks, and manages to get close to the enemy's legs. At the same time, the soldier activates his hardening ability and uses his arms to block a powerful blow. The albino girl and the sniper ready their weapons and fire powerful energy beams with great fury at the target. The destructive beam hits the creature right in the face, causing significant damage and stunning the large monster. Taking advantage of the opening, the boy leaps with his claws, ready to deliver the final blow to the giant enemy. With a swift movement, he makes several cuts on the beast's body, scattering its pieces across the area. The team celebrates their easy victory against the Colossus monster, but the protagonist warns that something is very wrong. The blonde girl tries to look at the body, and the boy desperately shouts that something is coming out of the fallen creature. Far away at the company headquarters, the woman with red horns looks for the man in the suit to talk about the hero boy. With a very irritated look, she announces that she went over the council's head to question this terrible attitude. The man in the suit pretends not to know what she's talking about, which greatly angers the girl, who tells him to come clean quickly. Then the man shows a file and reveals that the army sent the boy's group to fight against the king of monsters. The young woman is startled because this creature is of an extreme level, and she believes a rookie won't survive it. Shocked by this revelation, the woman asks if he is lying, because not even she could handle that abomination. At this, the red-haired man in the suit states that he had no need to lie, as the boy is only valuable if he stays alive. The horned woman sees the plan and deduces that he's telling her all this to ask for a big favor. With a malicious smile, the man extends his hand, saying that everyone will get a good outcome if she cooperates now. So, the young woman accepts the deal on the spot, claiming she needs to stop her brother from throwing his life away. Back in the jungle, a huge monstrous moth appears right in front of the squad, beating its giant wings. The terrifying creature displays the frightening marks on its wings, which look like brightly glowing red eyes. The leader feels a sharp headache and tells his team to close their eyes because it's a mental attack. He grits his teeth, sweating as he desperately tries to break free from the illusion caused by the monster. Inside his mind, the boy notices a dark silhouette emanating a strong red energy. The mysterious figure reveals itself to be a dark version of himself, who greets him with a very creepy look. Meanwhile, the albino sniper is faced with an illusion of her own corrupted uncle right in front of her. The young blonde girl also falls for the trick and sees several holographic screens full of incredible scientific data. Completely hypnotized, the scientist runs towards the holograms, wanting to analyze everything right away. But in the real world, all the team members remain frozen like statues under the creature's spell. However, the big guy in armor starts to sweat profusely and finally manages to break the imposed mental control. He wakes up with a massive headache and soon realizes that his cap-wearing colleague has also broken free. The soldier shakes his leader, trying to wake him up, while the giant moth prepares another deadly attack. Seeing the beast approaching, the two boys deduce that the others aren't waking up because they have complicated minds. The sniper in the cap explains that stronger and more obsessed people suffer much more damage from these tricks. The giant monster lets out a roar, and the big guy tells his friend to call for backup while he buys some time. At that, the terrifying flying creature fires several purple spheres of pure energy toward the brave recruit. The explosive spheres hit the ground around the sleeping soldiers, creating a large impact in the area. Without a second thought, the armored soldier pulls his unconscious commander, saving him from an explosion. The sniper tries to shoot down the attacks, but notes that they won't last long if their friends don't wake up soon. Inside his mind, the young man's dark side takes the form of a demonic face, claiming to be his real version. With brutal fury, the evil copy lunges forward, delivering a red slashing blow towards the boy. The illusory villain then uses a dark ability and surprisingly enters the protagonist's body directly. The possession causes intense pain, and the boy grits his teeth, trying to fight against this overwhelming force. The evil being surrounds the young man, telling him to accept the power to finally find his old friend. But the rookie commander refuses the offer and lands a powerful punch, sending his own copy flying. The monster easily dodges the blows, warning that it knows every move the boy tries to use. With great anger, the true hero shouts with all his might that he will never become this evil thing. He then leaps high and prepares his lethal claws to attack the cursed illusion from above. The young man delivers a deep red slash, but the dark copy quickly prepares its counterattack. The entity strikes the boy relentlessly, calling him crazy, while the boy focuses on saving his partner. Completely ignoring the pain and injuries, the brave leader lands a devastating blow on the dark illusion. The impact is so strong that the dark entity begins to completely fall apart, shocked by its defeat. In the other mind, the albino sniper finds herself exhausted and injured, listening to taunts from the illusion of her uncle. She wipes the corner of her mouth, admitting that the fake enemy is incredibly strong and capable of causing despair. However, the young woman activates her purple aura, her eyes glowing, and warns that she feels great anger in addition to fear now. The albino girl fires her energy, warning that he is not the kind uncle she remembered, but a traitor. At this, she affirms that one day she will be stronger than him and will bring him back with her own hands. The two young people meet in the mental space, and the sniper explains that they need a double shock. Then the leader and the sniper prepare their strongest attacks and strike the illusory space with all their might. In the real world, the commander regains consciousness, a bit dizzy, noticing he needs to wake his allies. Suddenly, a strong blue energy appears, and someone announces that the wind vortex domain is ready. The boy realizes it's his blonde colleague, acting from the outside, and quickly breaks the mental barrier with a powerful punch. With the barrier completely destroyed, the two warriors finally manage to escape that trap. In the real world, a powerful tornado of wind hits the giant moth, sending the monster flying far away. The blonde girl breathes a sigh of relief for waking up in time, while the leader praises her for a job well done. The young man warns that the wings are the problem and asks the sniper to aim well at them to nullify its power. With a focused look, the albino girl tells him to leave it to her and starts charging her weapon with purple energy. She observes the target through her weapon's scope, noticing the monster trying to flee in vain, and then locks her aim. At that, the blonde girl clenches her fist tightly and unleashes the full power of her wind domain against the enemy. A giant purple laser beam cuts through the skies, hitting the moth head on and causing great destruction. After the intense battle ends, the team's large armored vehicle finally stops in the forest. Inside the car, the leader sits exhausted, emanating a red aura, while the blonde girl comments on the creature. The albino girl worries about her friend's aura, but the recruit asserts that he will get even stronger soon. The man in armor smiles, very excited, stating that he feels much safer with this new strength. Suddenly, the protagonist opens his eyes and tells them to stop the car because he sensed some presences up ahead. The blonde girl gets scared, thinking they are monsters, but the young leader seriously reveals that they are humans. At that moment, a muscular man with marks on his body jumps from the trees and lands right in front of the car. The brute lands with such force that he creates a large crater in the ground, kicking up dust. With his red eyes glowing, the angry man yells that this road is closed to the army. The team gets out of the vehicle, surprised that he is a conscious mutant, and the leader asks who he is. The villain introduces himself, revealing he works for a mysterious lord, and then charges forward to attack. With incredible speed, the giant man prepares a very powerful punch aimed directly at the young man, but the hero easily dodges the blow, which hits the ground, causing an explosion and angering the villain. The protagonist lands softly on the ground without retreating a single millimeter before the gigantic enemy. The brute wastes no time and tries another fatal punch, while the blonde girl tells her leader to be careful. To everyone's surprise, the young man raises just one hand and catches the devastating punch without the slightest effort. Smiling, the boy praises his opponent's strength, but warns that's all he has, leaving the brute in shock. Next, the commander delivers a very fast kick to the enemy's stomach, sending him flying far away. At that, the boy activates his dark ability, transforming into a pool of darkness in the middle of the woods. He quickly reappears in front of the villain and lands a powerful uppercut, breaking the big guy's teeth, giving no chance to defend. The hero continues to hit him relentlessly, while the villain wonders how it's possible. Atop the trees, the mysterious masked man watches the fight in shock, noticing the recruit's absurd level. Realizing that his henchman is going to lose the fight, the masked man flees silently through the forest. The deformed recruit praises the victory, and the leader tells them to tie up the brute because they need to get back to the mission. Further ahead, the landscape opens up, revealing a gigantic and isolated crater in the middle of the dark jungle. Suddenly, some smaller insects jump from the trees, falling directly into the mysterious hole. As they approach the edge of the abyss, the group sees a giant nest full of red eggs. The commander tells everyone to keep their distance and asks the albino girl to fire quickly to delay the creature. The sniper pulls the trigger immediately, launching a powerful energy shot at the large structure. However, a reddish beast with several tentacles emerges from the den, letting out a terrifying roar at everyone. At the same time, dozens of other beasts appear, protecting the main creature and surrounding the group. Realizing the great threat, the leader orders the team to attack with force, while trying to dodge the attacks. The blonde scientist quickly summons her large hurricane in an attempt to push back some of the creatures. At this, the big guy in armor takes the lead in the attack, serving as a shield so his commander doesn't get hurt. He slams his shield into the beast, taking a brutal hit as the creature's claws tear through his protection. Without wasting time, the boy summons his destructive energy, preparing a beautiful strike to hit the target. The attack hits the creature with extreme precision, creating a shockwave that shakes the surrounding forest. 2 hours later, the team continues to fight bravely, but the number of monsters keeps increasing. The albino girl keeps firing non-stop, warning that she doesn't know how much longer they can hold them off. Suddenly, the rocks on the ground begin to vibrate as the red beast tries to break free from underground. Then the gigantic mother beast of the nest frees herself, full of rage, roaring fiercely at the young invaders. Seeing the size of the challenge, the sniper decides to handle the threat by firing a shower of beams across the sky. The commander is speechless seeing all that power, but soon realizes something is wrong. At that moment, a veteran soldier appears levitating with an incredible aura, completely startling the group of heroes. The young blonde girl uses her hurricane, combining forces with the thunderous energy of the newly arrived warrior. The veteran lands, preparing his claws of light, which begin to rapidly slice the dangerous monster. After the soldier's long series of blows, the mother monster explodes violently into the forest air. The new squad charges forward, helping the young recruits and showing them they are no longer alone. The veteran warrior kicks the beasts with great ease, while the blonde girl calls him Big Brother. The albino girl shoots at the monster's blind spot with great effectiveness, causing major damage with her rapid shots. However, the veteran doesn't stop and concentrates his light for a final blow, but the blonde girl soon notices his exhaustion. He gathers all his remaining energy, releasing an absurd explosion that sweeps away all the insects in the vicinity. The shock of the power flings the insects far away, clearing the path and eliminating much of the danger. However, the effort makes the soldier cough up blood, and his companions quickly appear, very worried about him. Just then, the sound of a military helicopter cuts through the air, giving the rookie team a new sense of hope. But suddenly, a purple defensive barrier appears on the monsters, indicating that these new reinforcements are not allies. The helicopter finally lands, and the red-haired man in the suit gets out, accompanied by 2 mysterious female allies. With a completely proud look, he introduces himself, saying the military team helped him a lot with the creature. The squad's captain recognizes the man in the suit, but questions why he would commit such a vile act against them. The man coldly states that he used the group as bait to weaken the monster, so he could then steal the eggs. The sniper indignantly asks what the logic is in allowing the creature to lay its eggs there if it will be a disaster. The red-haired man just ignores her, commenting that the risk is worth it, since he wants much more powerful soldiers. Then he says the show is over, revealing from under his cloak the colleague the protagonist thought was lost. The boy can't believe any of it, remembering the young girl who left a long time ago. Filled with rage, the hero gets up, gritting his teeth, and telling the jerk to give him back his friend now. The red-haired girl has an empty gaze, indicating that her mind is being completely controlled now. At that moment, the enormous red monster with gigantic claws roars with great fury, wanting to smash everything. The hero tries to advance to save his friend, but a woman launches an attack to push the boy back. This enemy ally fires electrical energy, while the controlled young woman just floats in the air. Then, the childhood friend lands right in front of the terrifying creature without showing any emotion. The gigantic creature opens its mouth full of sharp teeth, revealing itself to be a very dangerous beast. The young woman continues with a vacant stare, proving she is not conscious of her own actions. She calmly positions herself above the monster's fangs, connecting with that evil beast. With that, the girl extends her hand, using her dark powers to command the giant creature. The enormous creature obeys the command and charges forward brutally, destroying the ground all around it. At that moment, Several other dangerous monsters also start running towards the military group. The villain in the suit smiles excitedly, saying that everyone will witness the great awakening of the queen. The white-haired captain notices that the protective barrier won't withstand the blows for much longer. Desperate, the protagonist asks the veteran chief to create an opening so he can save the young woman, but the captain holds the boy back, warning that going in there among the beasts would surely be a one-way trip. The young leader breaks free violently, stating that only he can wake up his friend now. He faces the older soldier with a very focused gaze, showing that he will not back down from his decision. The veteran agrees and orders his men to provide full cover for the recruit to pass safely. With the help of the soldiers holding back the enemies, the commander advances at high speed across the field. Seeing his big chance, he jumps high and passes through the barrier of light, heading straight into danger. The squad's captain watches the boy leave with a look full of worry and hope. The fearless hero lands with great energy right in front of his old partner who was taken. At that, the boy calls her name with a trembling voice, feeling immense pain seeing her in that state. He says he has finally found her as the two stand face to face in that scene. Far away, the soldiers continue to fire nonstop, trying to hold back the advance of the gigantic beasts. The lord in the suit laughs, mocking the hero's useless efforts to try to change the final outcome. The gigantic red beast advances, destroying the scenery while several insects kick up dust. Suddenly, a very scary enemy henchman gives a wicked smile, preparing his lethal blade. The man throws several sharp needles of dark energy, which cross the air toward the military group. At the same time, the monster queen spits a very strong and deadly power beam at the invaders. The masked henchman runs swiftly, ordering them not to even think about getting close to the great beast. In addition, the other female villain begins to glow intensely, releasing a very blinding energy aura. The intense glow generates a magical explosion that pushes the tactical squad back with overwhelming force. However, the brave white-haired leader manages to fight back, shooting beams of energy at the villains. She activates her own aura, ordering the enemies to stop their attacks immediately. The warrior gathers all her purple electrical power, showing that she won't go down without a good fight. With a swift movement, she fires her beams, hitting the henchman squarely and leaving him in shock. The woman swears with great anger that she will not allow these guys to affect the protagonist's plan. The rest of the team also uses their powers, launching combined attacks against the other beasts. Then the captain and the blonde girl unite their abilities, firing a double beam at the enemy woman. The giant red monster attacks the protagonist with its swift claw, causing a huge impact. The beast opens its giant mouth while the young woman remains standing on top, facing our hero. Suddenly, the girl clutches her head, screaming in pain as she sinks into a pool of dark energy. Seeing the scene, the boy is surprised, noticing that the mental control over his friend is weakening. The redhead tries to fight against the possession and tells the boy to run, but then says she needs to devour him. With his heart racing, the young recruit wonders what he should do to save his old friend. Then he looks up and realizes that the giant beast's core is the key to this terrible fusion. Full of determination, the boy charges forward, stating that he needs to sever the connection at all costs. The albino captain screams desperately, telling the recruit to stop, because jumping into the beast would be throwing his life away. But the fearless hero ignores the warnings and prepares a punch charged with his strong red energy. He lands a devastating blow right on the creature's chest, causing an explosion of blinding light. The force of the attack is so absurd that the rocky core begins to crack, releasing a lot of pure energy. The monster lets out an immense roar of pain as the impact of the punch illuminates everything around the field. With great strength, the warrior uses his own hands to open the glowing rift in the creature's chest. Without hesitating for a second, the young man plunges his arms directly into the target's center of power. The boy yells with all his rage and manages to rip the glowing sphere from within the cursed beast. At that exact moment, the connection is broken, and the young girl lets out a loud scream, feeling the strong shock. The masked henchman is in shock, noticing that the crazy young man is absorbing all the beast's power. Furious about the theft of its core, the colossal beast lunges forward to swallow our hero in one gulp. Bleeding and with his eyes glowing, the protagonist yells for the creature to disappear, showing great courage. The giant monster begins to fall apart into pieces, while the redhead plummets, crying and very scared. Seeing the girl fall, the leader quickly propels his legs with dark energy and leaps high. He crosses the sky at high speed, extending his hand to try to reach his old companion. The boy finally reaches the young woman, promising that he will never let anyone hurt her again. Crying with emotion, the girl affectionately touches the hero's face, asking if it's really him. Even though he's covered in injuries and bleeding a lot, the brave warrior gives his friend a gentle smile. On the ground, the albino sniper cries with relief at the scene, while the insects flee in desperation. The villain in the suit swallows hard, completely shocked to see that the boy really did ruin his plan. However, the effort of the battle was too great, and our protagonist begins to show exhaustion. The young hero slowly closes his eyes, feeling the weight of all that power invade his body. He ends up losing consciousness and falls backward while his friend screams his name in despair. The redhead manages to catch the boy in time, but a menacing black aura begins to circle her body. With a furious and demonic gaze, she faces the villains, blaming them all for hurting her friend. Driven by pure rage, the girl charges at an insane speed toward the great scoundrels. She creates several purple energy spheres, warning that she won't let any of those guys escape alive. Next, the powerful warrior fires an absurd barrage of blows, destroying everything in her path. The masked henchman is caught head-on by the devastating attack, being thrown far into the forest. Seeing that the situation has gotten out of control, the red-haired lord orders his team to retreat from the area immediately. The cowards turn their backs and start running desperately towards the escape helicopter, but a colossal demonic shadow appears right behind the group, promising a terrible punishment for them. The dark-haired warrior defends against an attack from a man with red eyes and a sinister aura. At that moment, the young woman uses her own body to shield the unconscious protagonist from a blow. Suddenly, a new creature appears on the battlefield, surrounded by powerful red energy. Far away, a mysterious group observes the scene, saying it's the perfect chance for them to act. The white-haired man laments seeing that this Zhao has transformed into that terrible monster. The creature smiles, saying that his current form is entirely the fault of his former commander, who is present. The leader takes responsibility for having let the boy and the girl explore the ruins alone. The villain then offers a new future, inviting the veteran to join his dark faction. However, the purple-haired young woman yells for her uncle not to let the red mist control his mind. The monster says it will clear the obstacles first, so the soldier can think better about his proposal. With that, the enemy summons an army of S-rank skeletons to attack the group of heroes. The commander tells the redhead that to save her brother, they need to attack together with full force. Meanwhile, the two girls take the unconscious protagonist to a safer place far away. Seeing his chance, the demonic creature charges at high speed towards the squad leader, but the commander reacts in time, creating a strong blue energy barrier to defend himself from the blow. The red-haired girl also joins the fight, preparing several purple power spheres to attack the enemy. She fires the energy projectiles, which fly quickly toward her main target on the field. The demonic being dodges all the attacks with agility, spinning in the air like a true acrobat. Next, the villain uses his power to summon several gigantic beasts and insects for the battle. He manipulates the creatures with his dark aura, ordering them all to attack the heroes at once. The purple-haired girl becomes desperate, not knowing what to do to wake up the unconscious young man. She holds the boy's hand, asking him to wake up because his sister and her father are fighting alone. The girl injects her energy into the young man, and the blonde girl notices that her body is also mutating. The monster advances with a powerful punch, prepared to finish off the commander with a single blow. However, the red-haired warrior summons a dragon that fires a strong energy beam at the enemy. The creature manages to stop the powerful energy beam, using only one of its hands to defend itself. He scoffs at the girl, saying her manipulation power is still very incomplete and far too weak. Worried, the commander asks if the young woman is okay, and she confirms that she can still keep fighting. The warrior then concentrates her strength, creating a huge blue energy sphere for a final attack. The man with glasses also prepares an attack, creating a golden, very sharp energy disc. The villain sees the two attacks and accepts the challenge for a final, decisive, and extremely deadly blow. With eyes glowing with fury, the creature charges forward to collide with the hero's attacks. He collides directly with the golden disc, causing a gigantic and very loud impact. The collision of powers generates a massive explosion that illuminates the entire battlefield at once. After the dust settles, the commander is on his knees coughing, and the redhead asks if he's okay now. The monster appears in front of him, shrouded in a malevolent aura, declaring that the fight is finally over. Suddenly, red tentacles appear and pin the protagonist along with the blonde girl to the ground. Seeing this unexpected scene, the demonic creature is surprised and looks to the side with suspicion. A massive wave of red power advances towards the villain, catching him completely by surprise. The protagonist finally awakens with red eyes and a frightening demonic shadow behind him. The blonde girl recognizes the insect king's aura and asks fearfully if that is still her friend. The protagonist tells them not to worry because he can still maintain control over himself. With a terrifying smile, the villain says the boy is perfect for having forcibly reached S rank. Our hero replies that he has no interest in turning into that kind of creature. The monster scoffs, saying this is the price of evolution and that the young man has no ambition. The enemy attacks with dark energy, saying his lessons from last time weren't enough. The red-haired girl screams desperately, calling for her brother, while the commander watches in shock. The protagonist blocks the attack with his hands, which have transformed into sharp, red claws. The young man runs to attack while the redhead and the commander also agree to attack together. The two warriors collide their fists with absurd force, generating a large shockwave. The sister and the leader also charge into the attack, launching their powers at the monster below. But the villain easily repels their attacks, telling them both to get out of his way now. He then challenges the protagonist to show all of his true strength at that moment. The boy attacks relentlessly, but the enemy blocks everything, repeating that it's still not enough. The hero is hit and thrown back, with the villain saying his level is still too low. However, the young man manages to grab the opponent with a smile, stating that he finally caught him. He prepares a punch charged with a bright and very powerful red energy in his hand. The hero lands a devastating blow, shouting that this punch is for his friend who was hurt. The force of the attack is so great that it launches the enemy far away with a trail of red energy. Lying on the ground, the monster coughs but says it wasn't bad, and that this is the kind of power he wanted. The villain says he has used a lot of power and will let the boy go, but that one day he will submit. Suddenly, a very strange, multicolored energy explodes around the great villain's body. He is shocked to feel purple lightning coursing through his entire body uncontrollably. The purple-haired girl apologizes to her uncle, saying she can't let him escape this time. Seizing the opening, the protagonist concentrates his energy, creating a spinning red sphere. The sphere becomes gigantic, and he remembers that this power once scared him, but also made him obsessed. He prepares to launch the blow, saying that since the enemy wants that power so much, then the large energy sphere flies quickly towards the monster, who is immobilized. With a furious shout, our hero tells the villain to take all that power at once. The monster screams desperately, trying to hold the enormous energy sphere with its own hands. This causes a gigantic explosion of light that illuminates the entire forest around them. After the smoke clears, the villain returns to his human form, all battered and very exhausted. The commander supports the man, who apologizes for causing so much trouble for the group. The purple-haired girl cries with relief, while the blonde asks if it's all finally over. The commander then announces that the mission was a success, and the entire squad celebrates the victory. After some time, the instructor comments that the B-rank soldiers have improved a lot in training. The boy replies that he is taking medicine from the insect king's crystal, and that his condition has improved. The instructor says the enemy group confessed, and the young man takes the opportunity to ask if there will be a bonus. The boy says goodbye, saying his sister is waiting for him at home. and the instructor tells him to go and enjoy himself. Arriving home, the hero tells his sister that he's back and that they also have a visitor. The hero is surprised to see the purple-haired girl at his house and complains that she only came to eat. The young woman complains that her father wouldn't let her visit her uncle, so she decided to eat somewhere else. Sitting at the table, the boy asks how her work is going, and she suspects he's changing the subject. The boy realizes that the gossipy blonde girl told his friend everything and gets very annoyed. Then the three of them have dinner together in a very cheerful atmosphere, chatting and laughing a lot. When it's time to leave, the young man's sister asks her friend to stay a little longer, but she has to go back. His sister then suggests that he walk her home, because it's very dangerous to walk at night. The boy is indignant, saying that she is strong, but his sister pushes him outside anyway. Walking down the street, the young woman thanks him for helping to bring her uncle back safely. She then asks if the boy thinks her uncle will wake up, and he answers that he definitely will. With a smile, the hero tells her to be calm and patient, because everything will turn out fine in the end. Suddenly, the girl stops, and the boy asks what happened as a shooting star crosses the sky. Excited, the young woman points to the star, and the boy takes out his communicator to tell his sister. His sister gets annoyed that he is sending a message instead of enjoying the moment with the girl.